another Saturday Night Shoot the Breeze. I want to thank everyone who participated last week. We had a good panel last week, good numbers. We had, at the end, we had Cheryl, a black woman, joined us. We had War Drum join us for the first time. Really good stuff. And I hope that we can replicate that again this week and in the weeks to come. I could tell my sound is working, so that's good news for me. With that said, thanks to everyone who was on the panel. Thanks for everyone who was in the chat, who added their thoughts to each prompt. And thank you guys for those of you who listened to the playback and you left your comments during the playback. I see the matron is out there. She was with us last week as well in the panel. Matron is saying greetings, everyone. Greetings to you too, matron. Thanks for being here. Make sure you guys are tuned in to the matron, by the way. And thanks to those who came in the playback and dropped a comment or two, interesting as they were. And I hope we can replicate that and improve upon that each week going forward. You know what it is. I like to come on here before the show starts officially and let you know what we're talking tonight. We're talking, how do we feel about this awesome moment? This moment has to do with some kids kind of cracking jokes on each other about being fatherless. We're going to talk about how every society is based on three pillars: culture, politics, and economics. We're going to talk about that in terms of the UNIA. That should be an interesting conversation. We're going to talk about Neely Fuller tonight. Neely Fuller recently passed away. In honor of Neely Fuller, the tacky, trashy, and terroristic fact can be debated on any African, non-African relationship. Like he said, we'll talk more about that later tonight. We're going to talk about DC Youngfly, who claimed, I'm from America, but I'm an African first. A lot of you might have paid attention. DC Youngfly was in, I believe, Ghana recently and having a good time and connecting and making it known that he was connecting to his African roots. And a lot of people, guess who? A lot of hashtag folks did not like that. Speaking of Africa, we're going to talk about 19 Keys and what he had to say about Africa. People are getting on him about that as well. So what I'll do now is start the show officially. I posted the link for anyone who wants to join the panel. They can join the panel. What I'll do now is start the show officially, and on the other side, I'll post Shoot the Breeze topic number 1, as well as introduce any and all panelists tonight. Oh, I see the brother from the To Be Fair show is out there saying peace, fam. Peace to you too, brother. Thanks for coming through. Make sure you guys are checking out the To Be Fair show as well. What I'll do now is start the show officially, and on the other side, we will discuss Shoot the Breeze topic number 1. Do stay tuned and hit the like button for in the meantime and share the show to your social media.
Hello there, dear listener. We hope you're enjoying this lovely discussion. If you're not already aware, this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. A Pan-African nationalist and Garveyite network come to showcasing the rich and varied thoughts of African people. We have an exciting lineup of shows that we think you'll enjoy, including
the Bitter Medicine Podcast.
I think black people require too much buy-in. Like, we constantly have to sell black people on things that are beneficial to black people.
The Pro-Black Perspective Podcast.
I'm fearful that our people are not really studying how to get ahead, and we're kind of, continually staying behind.
The Harsh Reality Podcast.
To me, it don't matter. I think people are so dumbed down. It wouldn't matter what you reveal to them. They still are in the matrix. They in the simulation. They're gonna keep doing what they did. They lemmings. So to me, it don't matter, man.
The Learning Curve Podcast.
Sexual access has never given you economic empowerment. The only person who has ever been economically empowered by a sexual relationship is the wasp and his woman.
The Cathedral Cheek Show.
When we start rising up to fight for our own, I guarantee you they'll stop doing what they're doing. I guarantee you they would have let their brother go. They was waiting to see what black folks was gonna do.
Brother Bakari Podcast.
Black people love to claim folks that hate them, right? They're a slave master, and they are ashamed of who they really are.
The Forecast Radio.
Like, if you pray to the same deity as, like, your enemy, and that God blesses your enemy more than you may want to reconsider who you praying to, you know.
And Tanzan, African Mind.
Africans generally are welcoming of everyone. Sometimes, to my consternation, I think that they should be less, welcoming.
If you love our podcast network, we would be grateful if you could rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our website at www.kwazradio.com for more information. Thank you for tuning in. And now, back to the program.
Almost forgot to unmute. Yes, indeed. I want to thank everyone who's here. I see you guys in the chat, introducing yourselves, saying what's up. Good stuff. I see the To Be Fair show said peace, fam. Anthony McPhail said what's up to the matron. She returns. Black Seal says good evening. He says he's driving. Should be on in an hour. I do appreciate that, Black Steel. Be safe out there, by the way. It's just not snowing here in New York, so I'm sure it's not snowing there, but be safe all the same. Trigger Hobby 262 Plus is out there this week. He says peace. Was sick last week, so I couldn't make it, but here today. Thanks for coming through. Ditso is out there. He says passing by. Unfortunately, prior engagements won't be able to stay. No problem, sir. I understand that. Things come up. It's Saturday night, and you got things to do. I get it. But thanks for coming through and letting us know that you did at least pass by. Let me add for our first panelist tonight. And again, if you want to join the panelists, click the link pinned to the top of the chat, and you too can be on the panel. My first panelist tonight is Buana. Buana, how are you this week? All right, I'm guessing we're starting off with...
Coco, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah, so Buana has a delay. Buana, you have a delay.
Okay.
Go and come back.
So I'll...
Yeah. So, okay. So while Buana works on his sound there, I'm also trying a different browser this week. I want to see if people still have all these problems getting on. See if it's a browser issue. So Buana, step out, come back, and we'll talk to you soon. Daily affirmation by Pauline is out there saying good evening. Good evening to you too. Good to see you. You know what? Let me just start the show with Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 as we await for others to join the panel tonight. Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 says, how do you feel about this awesome moment? This awesome moment comes with a link to YouTube. Let me share it with you guys, make sure you guys can see it. That's one thing I don't like with this system. Anthony, can you hear me in the back there? Oh, it looks like he can. Let me add you to the scene. Hold on. Yeah, Anthony, can you hear me? I can't hear you for some reason. Let me see.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can hear you
Yeah,
now.
there you go. Hey, you gonna have to mute me and unmute me, Coco.
All right, no problem. No problem.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thanks for coming through.
Let me go hook it up in the house.
Let me see if Buana. Let me see if Buana can hear us. Buana, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay.
Yes, sir. How are you this week, Buana?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I hope all the brothers are good. You know, it's a good week. And happy Black History Month to all my African American brothers and sisters. I know this is your month.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for being here again. So, like I said, Shoot the Breeze topic number one says, "How do you feel about this awesome moment that takes us to YouTube?" So what I'll do is I'll play the video, and then I'll play it twice because it's a short, and then we'll discuss it.
If I say right now, "Hey Siri, call Dad," is it somebody in your phone gonna get called?
Okay, call your father. I call my father. Let's see who pick up first. Call your dad. I call my dad. Who dad picking up first?
Put my phone there, bro. Toss it, bro.
Niggas going dad for dad.
Who dad? We going dad for dad right now.
Dad for
We going
dad.
dad for dad. And what's your dad name in his phone? Is it no name? Cause he's not there. Mine say dad. Call your dad first.
I say no more. So we call at the same time.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Speakers.
I gotta go back my dad this year. This shit ain't even up. Come on, Pop.
Hold up.
Oh shit.
Oh shit.
We ain't got dads?
Hold up.
Bro.
Hello?
Yo, what up now?
This shit is loud. If I say right now, "Hey Siri, call Dad," is it somebody in your phone gonna get called?
Okay, call your father. I call my father. Let's see who pick up first. Call your dad. I call my dad. Who dad picking up first?
Put my phone there, bro. Toss it, bro.
Niggas going dad for dad.
Who dad? We going dad for dad right now.
Dad for
We going
dad.
dad for dad. And what's your dad name in his phone? Is it no name? Cause he's not there. Mine say dad. Call your dad first.
I say no more. So we call at the same time.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Speakers.
I gotta go back my dad this year. This shit ain't even up. Come on, Pop.
Hold up.
Oh shit.
Oh shit.
We ain't got dads?
Hold up.
Bro.
Hello?
Yo, what up now?
This shit is loud. If I say right now, "Hey Siri, call Dad," is it somebody in your phone gonna get called?
So that's an interesting and somewhat strange conversation. But I'm noticing that's a joke that black folks perpetuate a bunch now. This fatherlessness thing. It's very interesting how we kind of start parroting the other society when it comes to these serious matters in our lives. But I've been noticing that is a common joke now in the black world. I'll be curious to hear what others on the panel have to say about it. I'm going to start with Anthony. Anthony, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about this awesome moment?
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Hey,
sir.
y'all hear me? Okay, yeah. I don't know. I kind of got mixed feelings about it, man. I know sometimes you like to laugh and everything, have a little joke, but but see, that was my experience growing up, man. Not having a father around all the time, for the most of the time, but yeah, 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 it was all right, man. He had, at least his daddy picked up. You know what I'm saying? His dad picked up, so man. But yeah, I think also though, man. That's the kind of thing that we need to get up out of, though, man. You know, like you said, we mimicking some other people's bullshit, man, and at the same time, it's we basically talking about ourselves, you know, everybody else. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, it kind of I'm kind of a little bit emotional about that, man. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that, man.
Yeah, sorry about that, Anthony. I didn't mean to cause any distress or what have you, but yeah, that's the thing. It's a serious topic that can be emotional for many, and now we've turned that into a joke. I think it's kind of what was I thinking to say? I think it's kind of that thing of if you can't beat them, join them. And so now we are at the point of they finger wagged us, right, about not having fathers. Meanwhile, they're the ones who, in large part, caused us to not have fathers around. And now because we can't beat them, we join them. We've just, you know, we've just jumped in and start making the joke ourselves, only for in due time the other folks to come back and say, "See, even they say they don't have fathers and stuff like that." I mean, it's such a easy little thing to see, and it's such a shame that we keep falling into it over and over. Real quick before I go to Buana, I also want to shout out Sister Raw, who's out there shouting us out. Trick Happy 262 Plus says, "Yeah, it's just a joke that is expressed because that's the lens white people see black people, so it becomes repeated." Yeah, and that's one of the problems with black content creators too. We start playing into the nonsense too, just to say we've made content that is relatable and appeals and all that type of stuff. That's a damn shame too. But with all that said, let me go to Buana. Buana, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, to Coco, when you are a content creator, sometimes you try to not swim against the stream. You try to swim with the stream because it's more profitable. Because this is the cultural thinking of what many people may think and perceive. So, especially when you have audiences of people who want to be attracted to your content, you probably want to go swim with the stream rather than against it. Because really and truly, I am knowing that I have never been in a part of a community, and I can't. This is maybe I've been lucky because most of the men I know who have children, they love their children. They love their children, and to think I have not been a part of a community where men have not been a part of my community. For me even to believe, if when my father was alive, he used to love to hear from me. Absolutely love to hear from me. It's a joke to think that my father wouldn't pick up the phone if he see my name and I'm calling him. That's not my reality. That's not been my reality, and that's not the reality of many black men. There are people who may have jumped out of their responsibility of fatherhood and things of that nature, but that's not been my reality. And let me also say this: if you want to get that opportunity to be a father person in your community or whatever, you could always have uncles. Because I remember I remember my uncles. My uncles used to come around to visit my mother all the time. I remember my uncles very well. So it's always been male role models around, granddads. People who take up the weight or responsibility of manhood within our community when the men uh, don't live up to the bill as far as being responsible. So I have always looked around within my community and been able to see maleness around me, maleness around me. But maybe I'm lucky because I have never had the situation where it's like my dad wasn't around and things of that nature. And I can't see me doing that, me not being a good uncle or me not being fulfilling that role, carrying on the tradition of that. So that has not been my reality. So I maybe can't, I'm not the best person to speak to that. I'm not the best. And even in my community, I've always seen fathers, always reckon seeing them. Now you have people who don't live up to that expectations. As I get older, I recognize that, but that has not been the greater portion of my reality at all. So if the white community in America says that about the black, they don't know. They don't, maybe they do know what they're talking about, but that's not been my reality. Black men love their children, absolutely. So I leave it at that, Coco.
Now, but I appreciate what you said there. Being from the same place you're from, uh, I really could agree with what you said. I mean, there were some scallywags, of course, but for the most part, and like you said, there were uncles or something around too. Uh, Cheryl said she didn't see the video. She says greetings, and Jose said what's up. Jose actually hits the second part of what I was going to touch on. So first, I'm going to play it again because it's short. And then I'm going to touch on what Jose is talking about in the chat, and then I think Anthony may want to say something. So I'll unmute Anthony in a second. So first, let me play it again, and then we'll discuss the second half of it.
I gotta go back my dad this year.
Hey Siri, call dad. Is it somebody in your phone gonna get called?
Okay, call your father. I call my father. Let's see who pick up first. Call your dad. I call my dad. Who dad picking up first?
Put my phone there, bro.
Boom.
Toss it, bro.
Niggas going dad for dad.
Who dad? We going dad for dad right now.
Dad for
We going
dad.
dad for dad. And what's your dad name on his phone? Is it no name? Cause he's not there. Mine say dad. Call your dad first.
I say no more. So we call at the same time.
All right,
same
3,
time.
2, 1, go. Speakers.
I gotta go back my dad this year. This shit ain't you up. Come on, Pop.
Hold up.
Oh shit.
Oh shit.
We ain't got dads?
Hold up.
Bro.
Hello?
Yo, what up, now?
This shit is loud. If I say right now, hey Siri, call dad, is it somebody in your phone gonna get called?
Okay, call your father. I call my father. Let's see who pick up first. Call your dad. I call my dad. Who dad picking up first?
Put my phone there, bro.
Boom.
Toss it, bro.
Niggas going dad for dad.
Who dad? We going dad for dad right now.
Dad for
We going
dad.
dad for dad. And what's your dad name on his phone? Is it no name? Cause he's not there. Mine say dad. Call your dad first.
I say no more. So we call at the same time.
All right,
same
3,
time.
2, 1, go. Speakers.
I gotta go back my dad this year. This shit ain't you up. Come on, Pop.
Hold up.
Oh shit.
Oh shit.
We ain't got dads?
Hold up.
Bro.
Hello?
Yo, what up, now?
This shit is loud.
So hopefully Cheryl saw the video because I see she's posting the laughing emoji. But the second part of it that shouldn't be lost in the sauce is that at the end of the video, if you peep it, both their fathers actually did pick up the phone simultaneously. So, and if you read the comments I have on the side here, you'll see that people were pointing it out. Let me read some of the comments. Someone says, here, black fatherhood is needed. I watched this an unhealthy amount of times with pure joy and excitement. Someone else says, bet their dads are like, what the hell is going on over there? Someone else says, this is the type of content young black men need. So, someone says, I was stupid invested. Someone says they call at the same time. Their pops answered their phones at the same time. So, thanks for Jose for putting that lead out there. But that was, in fact, the second part of the video I was going to discuss, which is, the fathers did pick up the phone. So while it's a joke that I don't like, I gotta say I did like the end results. Before I go to Anthony, Cheryl says, I always had my father in my life, and as a young woman, I'm grateful. But I know people whom didn't have fathers, and you see the impact today. Anthony, you want to add something here, brother?
Oh no, not really, man. You pretty much got it, man. You took of it. Like I said, it was. I mean, I can laugh at it a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But to me, it's a serious thing. You know what I'm saying? And and like I said, it kind of hit a little bit close to home a little bit. But no, man, I ain't got nothing else to add to it.
No problem, Anthony. No problem. Buana, now that you've heard the second part of it, what say you to all of it now?
What I would say to my brothers like Anthony is, the things that you didn't get in growing up, you become that thing, And I would challenge the brothers them who didn't see the best example, or even an example at all. You become that thing, you know what I mean, and try to pass on the greatness of your legacy rather than the part of your legacy that you didn't particularly like. You know what I mean? You be able to bridge that link and that gap where pops maybe didn't wasn't able to fulfill that gap. You become that individual to pass that on to the next generation. So it's just we are trying to correct that broken link. And if they couldn't do it, you have the job to do that. You have the obligation to do that for your generation coming after you. Whether it's yourself and your own children or if it's your niece and nephews, you be that link. So, if the nieces and nephews say, well, I didn't have a dagger, but I always had my Uncle Anthony. He was always around. He was always passing me that $20. They remember that. They remember that 20 years later and shit. Yeah, my dad wasn't around, but my greatest impact to me was my uncle. My uncle Anthony always used to be looking out for us. He was always making sure, and I won't be just like him. So sometimes with us, with the brothers, where some of the brothers, fall to the wayside. Some of us who are a little bit stronger, I believe, have to be able to bridge that link. It is what it is. But I'll leave it, Coco.
I appreciate that, Buana. Let me just read a couple comments here. Trigabi262 Plus says, by the way, glad you're feeling better, Trigabi262 Plus. Welcome back. He says, yeah, the negative aspect was the side joke, but glad they both have fathers in their lives for their development as black men. Cheryl says, this is where self-worth comes into play and why we need to be understanding and patient with our people. Lastly, Cheryl says, if not your biological father, it's important to have a male figure for men and women. I'm not going to ask if there's any last thoughts on this prompt. I think we kind of touched on most of the things, and we know it's kind of emotional, etc. So I would just say good discussion from the chat and the panel. Let's move on to Shoot the Breeze topic number 2, though. Shoot the Breeze topic number 2 says, and this prompt was longer, but it won't display if I show the whole thing, so I'm going to have to read off the second part. It says, Shoot the Breeze topic number 2 says, every society is based on 3 pillars: culture, politics, and economics. The second part of this prompt says, did you know the UNIA sponsors a soccer club in NYC, hosts community-focused radio show, and founded the Federation of African, Caribbean, and American Restaurant Owners Corps. So that's the full prompt. So that'll make you understand what you're seeing in this attachment for this prompt. Let me see if you guys can see my screen. Absolutely. So what we'll do is we'll watch this. Let's see if I can get this right. We'll watch this and then we'll discuss.
For articulating that. And now just moving to today, and you mentioned it. Now, you've started first of all, I'm going to ask you two questions. What has been the response to the movement, UNIA today? And what are some of the projects of which you've mentioned, and so people can understand what you're doing, that you're actually doing some concrete things in the spirit of the great Marcus Messiah Garvey? Who would like to?
Okay, every system, every society is based on three pillars: culture, economics, and politics. You need culture because it's the way you express yourself. It's how you connect with everyone. You need politics because the politics plays the important role of distributing the funds and controlling what goes on in a community. However, those two cannot exist without the economics. And this is the big message that Mr. Garvey brought. He said, economics must rule the day. Now, when he says economics, he's not talking about one or two entrepreneurs making money, doing for themselves well. He's talking about self-reliance, where all of us gain and put a foothold there. So now, to respond to your question, what has been the response? Well, let me say this. What has the UNIA been doing recently? The UNIA operates a soccer program. Believe it or not, the Rosedale Soccer Club. The UNIA is on the radio with the community-focused radio show, and that is strictly economics because we use the proceeds from the restaurants that we are engaged in. But the biggest thing that the UNIA is involved in is what we call the Federation of African, Caribbean, and American Restaurant Owners Corp. We initiated that in March of 2016 at the Schomburg, and I know Sister Louise, you were an attendee, and I know you were I know you brought your teenage son, because I met him that day, and I thank you very much for bringing him. We launched it where we said, guess what? What would Mr. Garvey do now? A lot of times we beg, we protest, we denounce, and that's not to say it's not important, but we still need to control and develop the economies. Everybody, let's take, for example, New York City. Every community that is strong in New York City is because they control the economies of their communities. In our communities, as the President General rightly asked, where are the supermarkets? Where are the financial institutions? Every other communities, they control their business. In our communities, we actually do not. Other people control the businesses. That's how we're going to rebuild our nation. When we say our nation, our community, by controlling the economics. Now, how do you do that? Pool your resources. How was Mr. Garvey able to get all of these monies to buy not one, not two, not three ships, and then build all of these businesses? Believe it or not, Sister Louise, we have the money. We have it as black people in these United States. We just don't know it. We're poorly organized. So we pull our resources. We establish what we call the ROC, the Restaurant Owners Corp, where what we said to ourselves is all of these restaurants, and there are a lot of black restaurants in New York City, they spend between $8,000 and $20,000 per week on dry goods, meats, fish, produce, and vegetables. Two questions you've got to ask yourself. Number one, where are they getting this money from? Where? Only from the people, us. We support and patronize these restaurants. So if they're in business, they're funding it, and they must get that money from us. So the second question is, if we're spending all that type of money, $8,000 to $20,000, let's assume $10,000 per week, let's assume 100 restaurants, and let's assume 52 weeks. That's $52 million. It's being spent, so we have it. So why don't we pull these resources, control ourselves, eliminate the middleman, and create wealth for our benefit, create employment. This way we increase the capacity of our community. That's exactly what we've done. President General?
To answer your question, people response. Were you at the Schomburg?
Oh, yes, I was.
When I asked for investors to come on stage to invest their money, not forcing them, what you thought of that?
Well, it was a beautiful event. I mean, I remember it was, first of all, the house was packed. I mean, it was standing room only. People from all over the community came. You asked people to come to the stage, and certainly you asked for 1 month. But I mean, people came in droves. It was like everyone knew it was like a stand. It wasn't just, they weren't making a commitment for themselves. It was like they were making this commitment for their families, for their children. So just the energy in the room, and that was just tremendous. And then, as you said, I had the opportunity to go and to actually go to visit FACA, the headquarters, and just to see what you took from that afternoon till now to have this warehouse filled with this, that employs people within the community, that provides various businesses with, as well as individuals, with food and produce that they could, get right in the community. It definitely is an example of what Garvey's, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey's vision is. So I just wanted to.
President General, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Did we create anything new?
No. All we did is to follow the black prints that were laid out specifically for us. And since that evening, that's the type of responses we have been getting. Whether it's in Atlanta, whether it's in Chicago, Kingston, or Liberia, in Haiti, that's the type of responses we have been getting, because our people are looking for a better tomorrow. And we are presenting that to them, where they can be a part of a better tomorrow. Not just for me, but for all of us. And that's what we are bringing. And our people are feeling it. They have been looking for this for the longest time. And it's amazing. Some people had said when we started, if you get X amount of black people to invest $50,000 together, you'd be lucky. Sister, we have done that over and over and over. So that's the type of responses we have been getting. Thank you.
Wow. Well, I was going to say we're going to actually hold it. We're going to revisit this again in part 2. But I just want you to give a phone number. If anyone who's interested in finding out more information on this part, can you please share a number?
Sure. If anyone would like to get together with us to discuss UNIA, you can reach me at 718-570-7350. Again, 718-570-7350. And The Rock, the Restaurant Owners Corp., it's located at 13205 Merrick Boulevard. However, it's inside of Belknap Street. Again, 13205 Merrick Boulevard, inside of Belknap Street, Jamaica, New York, 11434. Again, the phone number, please call me 24/7, 718-570-7350.
All right.
Yeah, good stuff there. Good stuff there. How many of you in the chat were familiar with the community focused radio show and this sponsoring of a soccer team or soccer club in New York, etc.? I'll be curious to see how many of you are familiar and how many of you have listened to the community focused radio show. I gotta check this. I gotta contact these fellas. I like what they're doing here. With that said, let me introduce our latest panelist. That'll be Jacadero. Jacadero, how are you this week?
I'm well. You can hear me?
Yes, sir. Can hear you loud and clear.
I'm well. Peace and blessings, everybody.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming through. Jacadero, let me start with Anthony first. Anthony, what are your thoughts on should be topic number 2? Every society is based on 3 pillars: culture, politics, and economics. And the additional part of did you know the UNIA-ACL sponsors a football or soccer club in NYC, hosts community-focused radio show, and founded the Federation of African, Caribbean, and American Restaurant Owners Corp. What say to all of it, Anthony?
Yeah. Okay. I had heard a little bit about it because their sister. I follow their sister. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think her name is Louise Dante. If I'm not mistaken, that sister who was talking, the dark-skinned sister, the sister who was talking. I think her name is Louise Dante. I know she's based out of New York, and she has a show that's on YouTube called Cultural Caravan. Well, anyway, because I've been following her for a few years. And yeah, I kind of heard some about that. I had heard about that about the economic thing that they thing that they had together with all of the business owners. And I think I had heard somebody was talking about the sports teams, man. Man, I think I was it was this another sister I know was on Omawale Africa show. You know, Omawale was a UNIA member, and she was talking about some of the things that they were doing now. So I kind of heard a little bit about it. Yeah, but yeah, I agree with those principles, man. 100%, man. I mean, this is what I think about it, man. You know, Marcus Garvey was so far ahead of his time, man. That brother was brilliant, man. He was brilliant. I mean, you know, just everything. I mean, how he laid out his organization, him and his wife and the other people who helped him build the organization. But you know, remember before he founded the organization, man, he went all around the African world, man. You know, around the black world in the Americas, man. He went to South America, Central America, all over the Caribbean. You know what I'm saying? And he was just taking in everything that he had to take in, you know, so he could create solutions. No to our problems as African people, man. And and I mean, look, just I mean, even to this day, right now, there hasn't been an organization like his. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, just all of the things that he did, man. You know, I have so much respect for the Honorable Marcus Garvey, man. And like, you know, hey, look, you know what I'm saying? What I'm saying? No, this is my Bible right here, man. But yeah, man, yeah, man, I definitely agree with all of that, though, man. No, I knock off right there. You can mute me, Coco.
Yeah, appreciate that, Anthony. Yeah, this that triangle right there of culture, politics, and economics, very important. We talk about we talk about culture a lot, but I feel, we talk about culture a lot as a community, I think, or as a conscious community. I don't know if we often meld the other 2 points of that triangle very well. So I think it's something that we should be better at, connecting those 3 dots. And by the way, it is Cultural Caravan Presents, so I think Anthony was correct about that. I gotta look into it a bit more because I'm in NYC and I wasn't aware of the community radio show, etc. So I'll check all that out. With that said, Jacadero, what are your thoughts on every society is based on 3 pillars: culture, politics, and economics?
Yeah, absolutely. What the 2 men were saying is exactly what nationhood is about. Without those things, you just pretty much just have groups that meet together. And one thing I didn't know that there was a soccer club that was funded by them in New York. So next time I go to New York, I'll have to check that out. I don't have much to add. Props to the UNIA.
Appreciate that, Jacadero. In the chat, hold on. In the chat, Cheryl says, did not know. She goes on to say, sounds amazing. Self-reliance is the only way. Absolutely. Trigabi262 Plus says, UNIA controlling the business class is crucial to why it had the greatest global scope. All it just needed was to capture a state or to start the capture of all of Africa. I agree with that, Trigger. Very good comment. Buana, you've heard everything else everyone had to say. What say you to all of it?
When I was watching this, I was just thinking of Brother Bakari because he is the person who he's pushing that black business principle to a lot of people. So he would have loved seeing something like this. I don't know if we have an opportunity to see this because this is something that he would really catch on to and really love. But like I say, if I was in New York City, I would probably reach out to these people. I did not know. It's interesting that even though the UNIA lost their charismatic leaders or leadership, the organization, in terms of what these people are currently doing, is still moving on the ground, moving. And it just shows sometimes that a charismatic leader is good to bring people in, but to get people to actually work is another kind of thing that you need to achieve because these people are on the ground moving and making things happen in terms of the economics within their own respective communities. and they branching out into different other places as well. All the while not necessarily having a charismatic leader. So it goes to show that yes, charismatic leaders are good, but people coming in to actually do the work and get the work done is very, very important, especially in pushing in terms of culture, politics, and economics, getting the work done. And usually these kinds of things are not, the people don't necessarily see these people. They're not up front and center. These are faces you don't usually see, but these are the people who are actually getting the work done. But I need to visit their website, even call their number and see. I'm gonna call them probably sometime next week. But I wish they had a website. But I'll call them, to speak to whoever, because it's a good initiative to have, and to see if you could this initiative could be carried over into places like this part of the world as well. But we have a chambers of commerce, but that is a little bit different. But I see what they kind of trying to push here, and I think it's an important feature in moving the whole idea of Gaviism forward and Pan Africanism forward. I think that they're doing a great thing, man. Absolutely great, brilliant. But that's really it for me right there.
I have a follow up question, kind of broad, but first let me read these comments. Cheryl says, politically, we need a protective agent to stop infiltrators from stifling that progress. Trigger 262 Plus says, now black spending power and black businesses have no political school or political shape to funnel the money and profits to build greater political projects. It's just about enriching individuals. My broad question to all of you, and Anthony, I'm going to unmute your mic in anticipation of your response. My broad question to you guys is, if you had to speak to it, what do you think is or ought to be African people across the globe? What should our politics be? I know it's easy to say Pan-Africanism, but if we had to break it down, what should some of the elements of our politics look like? Anyone can answer. You guys have the floor.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'll go first if anybody else wants to.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Like you said, when we say Pan Africanism, because a lot of people have different interpretations of what Pan Africanism is. You know what I'm saying? And I dig that. But I go back to what the Honorable Marcus Garvey said. His idea. Honorable Marcus Garvey, he didn't talk about Pan Africanism. I think that was a label that was put on him, to describe what he was doing. But I think his thing was more, he was talking about black unity. You know what I'm saying? And he was talking about us rallying around what unites us, and what unites us is our race. You know what I'm saying? And we have, you had to put in context the conditions we was in. We talk about most of the black world was under colonial rule at that time. Well, most of the black world now is under neo-colonial rule. We have external forces who are destabilizing our countries, like we got in the Congo and other parts of the black world, in Haiti. You know what I'm saying? We basically are under attack, and we got to realize that we are under attack. We can't buy into certain things like, this classism and all. That plays a role in things. But I'm saying we have to say with our full chest that we race first, that we black first, and that we're going to take care of our people first. We're going to look out for our people's interests first. Okay, and after that, we could work with other people if we want, if that's what we want to do. But we have to look at it, black man, the black man, black woman, the black woman, black man, the black woman. We have to look at it and say, you know what? In this whole world, we got to look at it like, hey, everybody got their foot on our neck, and the ones who don't have their foot on our neck, they'll put it on our neck. You know what I'm saying? They'll put it on our neck to get what we got. You know what I'm saying? We have ownership of the richest piece of real estate in the world, man, the continent of Africa. You know what I'm saying? And not only just the continent of Africa, but our black minds everywhere. Hell, whether you from Jamaica, Haiti, the Bahamas, from Afro America, or from wherever black people at. Everybody else use our people, our brain power. No, look, all the Nigerian doctors, or Haitian doctors, and scientists, and everywhere. We go everywhere to help them build their shit instead of building our shit. Well, let's build our shit first. Let's build our shit first. Let's get our thing together. And then if we could work with other people to help the larger world community, whatever, that's cool. But we got to start saying it with our full chest that I'm for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna help Black Louisiana out first. I'm gonna help Black America out. And I'm gonna go over to my brothers in the Bahamas and see what they need some help. And to my brothers in Haiti, and everywhere in the African continent, and everywhere we at. I'm gonna go take my skills over there to help build over there. They bring their skills over here to help us over here. I think we gotta prioritize this. We gotta get out of this thing where we think, well, if we say black first, race first, everybody gonna look at us and oh, there they go with that racist shit. Man, the hell with that. The hell with that. They do the same damn thing. They do the same thing. What Elon Musk, he from South Africa, he a colonizer from South Africa. What he did, he came over here and told Trump, hey man, them Negroes over there doing some foul shit. They trying to take the land back from us white folks. Hey, you our big brother, our big white brother over here. Come over here and help us. Well, we got to do the same damn shit. We got to help each other. You know what I'm saying? We got to do what we got to do to help each other. That's where I look at. Don't worry about, okay, they're gonna call me. I don't give a damn what nobody call me. I'm a racist. If you think I'm a racist, okay, that's cool. But I'm gonna be a racist who love my people and look out for my people. I am a plane right there, folks.
Appreciate that, Anthony. Buana Jacadero, go ahead.
Well, I'll go since Jacadero is thinking about it. I reiterate the words of Anthony. Race first is an important politic, and with the analogy he used the analogy of Elon Musk. The leader of the so-called free world is basically letting you know it's race first. It's race first. It's race first, and really and truly race alone. That's his perspective. I don't take it to that level because I understand that we live in a global world and we'll have to do business with other people. But he says race first. It don't mean for all the humanists out there, no more white dad, no more Chinese, no more Mexicans. He just said you come first before everyone else. And if everyone else is practicing that politics, you should be too. Now, when I say that, this man used the term, we say culture, politics, and economics. For the American black man was brought up under a capitalist system. So his economics will be different from other black people's economics. Like the black man from Cuba. The black man from Cuba say, well, my politics is communism or socialism. And then somebody from the valley say, well, maybe my economics and how we want to take out our economics is between socialism and capitalism. And so now we'll be in a fight. But if we say, get collectively, bump all that race first. The politics aside, the economics aside, race first. Race first. You may be an American from America. I may be a black Cuban from Cuba. But when you come to Cuba, come to my restaurant before you go to the white Cuban restaurant. Come to my restaurant first. Before you stay at a white bed and breakfast, you come to find where I stay and stay at a black bed and breakfast first. This is the kind of politics, and the same thing go, in the opposite way. If I come to the Americas, before I go to McDonald's, I go into BB King's home chicken shack grill. Yeah, I go into his place before I go anywhere else first. So we'll be able to stave off the differences that we have in our economics. It's the same thing with politics and culture down the line. If you got to find a church, the Christians, if you got to find a church in the Americas and you're from America, you find your black church first before you go to Billy Graham church. Go find TD church before you go there. So it should spill into all other aspects of how you practice your humanness in this world. And if someone comes to question you and say, well, We are all human beings. Just remind them, yes, we are human beings, but we are in a competition with one another. So if we in a competition with one another, someone has to win that competition. And I would rather it be me because all the examples historically before me says that if it's not me, the people who gonna win the race, they're gonna oppress people who look like me and call me a monkey and then put me in a human zoo. So I must win this race first. We can practice humanism afterwards, but I must win this race since we're in a competition together with one another. So I think that it is an important feature to say race first. And that for me, I understand why he says that. But that's my opinions about it.
One real quick. Trigabi262 Plus in the chat says the black man from Cuba may not even identify as black because of Cuba's emphasis on being a non-racialist country. You have any thoughts on that?
Here's the issue with that. I've been to Cuba and I have seen the culture of Cuba is the black man is still doing the laborious jobs at the bottom, behind the scenes, the housemaids, the servants, even with the so-called equality of communism and Cuba and socialism. It's interesting that with all these ideas of equality, they are still positioned at the bottom, at the bottom of the bottom. So that is a game that people would like to play, but the black Cubans recognize it. When I stayed there, the black Cubans, the house where I stayed at, they looked at me like I was a fascination. It's like, how could you afford to be such a young person and have a vacation and stay up in this wealthy guy's place and relax? You know what I mean? And live up in his house and be able to do the things that I was doing where they could not do it. So that is people say that, the politics of a country may say that, just as they do with African Americans. You would see the African Americans balling, and you would think if you don't live in that country that all African Americans are millionaires. And it's only until you get there you realize and say, oh, this is an image that countries put out in the world to make people believe what it is when it's really not like that. So I think that I would say go investigate for yourself to see whether what I'm telling you is true or not true. That's what I say. Investigate for yourself. But I'll leave it there, Koku.
Appreciate that, Buana. Jacadero, you have any thoughts?
No, I don't. These two brothers on the panel, they hit it right on the money.
Appreciate that, Jacadero. In the chat, Cheryl says her response to my follow-up question is only marry black African, only reproduce black African, only practice African spiritual systems, no Islam, no Christianity, no Judaism. This is what we should strive for. The matron says we should start with only buying from black manufacturers. We should require that businesses invest in the black community. We should invest in co-ownership so that our money circulates. I like these responses from everyone. Brother Bakari is out there. BBN, Black Business Network. Make sure you guys subscribe. He had a live earlier today. He said the three pillars would be family, economics, and military. So Bakari has a different three pillars than what was discussed in this prompt here. Jose says they position themselves there by a worldview. Happens everywhere in mixed societies. I agree with that too. Everywhere you go in a mixed society, the black man is at the bottom, and that's something we should be concerned with. Jose says that's what makes sense the most. Trigger Happy 262 Plus says, to be fair, Cuba is dealing with sanctions, but I'm referring to Castro's policy to emphasize non-race, or that, quote, we are all Cubans, but I'm sure many don't agree with that too. Good discussion, everyone. Cheryl points out military is a part of political. Just to remind everyone that this prompt was discussing the three pillars as being culture, politics, and economics. And you know what's the funny thing is, military and family can actually be a part of all three. I think Anthony wanted to add something here. Let me get Anthony's thoughts real quick. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, cool. I was just agreeing with what you said, what you were just saying, and and what the sister Cheryl was saying. Military that falls under political because, like, even what Kwame Ture said, everything is political. You know what I'm saying? Everything's political. And I just wanted to just real quick, and I'm gonna knock off, say that when Bono was talking about Cuba, of course I've never been to Cuba, but I have a lot of Cuban friends. But like you saying about the economic system or whatever, how the Cuban might we might be under a capitalist system here, and the Cuban black man might talk about coming. You know what I'm saying is here. The economic system that was imposed on it. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have nothing to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Castro and Che Guevara and their group, they said we're gonna do this here, we're gonna do it this way. But like I'm saying, from everything that I read, everything that I've listened about, man, Cuba's a very racist society, man. I mean, you talk about the institutional racism down to the bone, man. I'll leave it right there, Coco.
I appreciate that, Anthony. I will provide triggers out there. And she says, and family is culture. Yeah, family. Let me tell you something. Military is culture. Look at these white folks. Military is a part of their culture. You know what I mean? So yeah, I agree with Bakari, but I think it is a part of these three tenets that was produced here: culture, that's family and military, politics, and something Anthony just said. I remember when I first heard, it was many years ago now, many years ago. I first heard Kwame Ture says everything is political. That struck me when I heard as a young guy, early 20s, and that struck me a lot. It changed how I viewed the world too. You see, like a lot of people will look at religion and say, "Oh, religion is just my belief." No, even what you believe in is political, right? And the idea of reverting back to African spirituality is a political move, and we have to be about those politics, I feel. Is there any last thoughts on this prompt before I move on? Okay. So this is I'm going to go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3, I guess. And this is a long prompt. Again, guys, if you're going to post prompts, please cut them down to like 2 sentences, because this program doesn't allow for long paragraphs to be posted. But I guess while I'm trying to figure this out, a couple people commented, so let me try to catch those comments. Trigger says all religions are pan states, to add to that. Cheryl says everything is political down to your choice in spouse. Absolutely. When I first heard Kwame Ture said that, it made me think of all those things. Like everything you do is a political choice. And I think that's what we have to really start emphasizing to our people, that, when you become a bunny chaser or whatever they call it, a swirler and all this kind of stuff, that's bad African politics. That's bad African politics. We got to tighten up on that. Brother Bakari, BBN Black Business Network, says military is never discussed by our people unless we're discussing white military. I agree, and that's a shortcoming on our part too. Which is why, I like Shoot the Breeze, and I like some of these topics that we discuss. It allows us to kind of open up our minds and expand the conversations a little bit. We got to remind our folks that everything is political. And military is a part of that. And if we ain't on military, we ain't on nothing. We ain't on protecting ourselves. We ain't on nothing. You know? Provide Triggers says, my dad often said, the personal is political and vice versa. Absolutely. She said something else. She said she agrees with Buana. Traveled to Cuba 2 times, and black Cubans are still at the bottom of the totem pole. So I appreciate all of those comments. I'm going to try to get Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 out, but I'm going to have to chop it up. Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 says, in honor of Neely Fuller, the tacky, trashy, and terroristic fact can be debated on any African/non-African relationship, like he said. Let me try to read the rest of the prompt. The next part says the best one gets out of it is tacky. Apply to love, work, neighbors, clubs, friendships. It don't matter. Tacky is the best you'll get. That's an interesting statement from Neely Fuller. Tacky is the best you'll get. This came with a link. I didn't set it up. Hold on. Give me a quick second. This came with a link that's going to take us to YouTube. Just give me one quick second to tee it up. I should have done this before. All right. So this takes us to YouTube. It's a short video, relatively speaking. Let me make sure you guys can see my screen. Great. So again, as many of you might know, I didn't really pick up on it at first, but I guess Neely Fuller passed away earlier this week. And this prompt is in honor of Neely Fuller. This video is called Neely Fuller, Tragic Arrangement, Tacky, Trashy, Terroristic. We'll watch and then we'll discuss.
Well, the interaction between black people and white people in a system of white supremacy only comes under 3 categories as far as what I call in the word guide that I put out, the textbook for victims of racism in the word guide section. It comes under the tragic arrangement. All of the arrangements between black people, non-white people, and white people on this planet in all areas of activity, 24 hours a day, comes under the banner, you might say, of a tragic arrangement. And that breaks down into 3 categories: tacky, trashy, terroristic. And it doesn't get any better than tacky. The very best arrangements, a bunch of black people and white people sitting around a conference table and whatnot. The whole atmosphere, the nature of the talk, the way that people interact with each other, the hypocrisy that goes on, the nervousness that goes on, that's tacky. It's all tacky. It doesn't get any better than tacky. It can't get any better than tacky. And if they try to improve on the tackiness, then it starts getting trashy, like the outline that you just presented. Symbolism and whatnot. I mean, they're going to cut a cake or something like that in a sort of a party-type atmosphere. Okay, so then it gets trashy. That's the only thing I can make out of it from your description of it. I'm not familiar with the scene, but I think that would come under that banner. It went from tacky to trashy, if it ever was at the first stage in the first place, which would be tacky. Then it just goes to tacky, trashy. And then the third stage is something that's terroristic. So just what you just outlined, the cutting of the genitals and all like that, could be considered symbolism of terrorism. See, so it doesn't get much better than those 3 things. It doesn't get out of that frame of reference. Tacky, trashy, terroristic. 1, 2, 3. Take your choice. You're not going to get anything other than that. You're not going to get what we call a quality relationship ever. under the system of racism. You can only get that quality relationship if you eliminate racism, meaning white supremacy, and replace it with a better system. And logically speaking, that better system would be a system of justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person who needs help the most gets the most constructive help in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. But you're going to have this, what you have now, what you just outlined, as long as you have the system of racism being the dominant culture among the people of this planet.
That's a very interesting snippet right there. I'd be curious to hear how many of you agree with Neely Fuller. And I know in the past we've had conversations where, folks, myself included, don't really pay Neely Fuller too much mind. But in this clip, I did notice he did talk about military and war. And I do kind of appreciate that side of him, I guess. So shout out to Neely Fuller, I guess. But with that said, let me mix it up a little bit. Let me hear from Jackadero. Jackadero, what's it?
Man, I just like the last one. I don't have too much to add. Yeah, I don't have too much to add on this. Rest in peace, Neely Fuller.
Jackadero, are you familiar with Neely Fuller before this prompt?
Just from you guys talking about him, yeah, that's about it. I've never read any of his works.
Okay, I got you. Let me go to Buana. Buana, what's it?
I think that Mr. Neely Fuller was a controversial figure. I did read his book. I remember I used to be a big advocate of it because to me he was so humorous and I presented a lot of his talking points. Dr. Fuller was very good at defining a lot of the issues and making clear what was unclear in terms of white supremacy. Him and Miss Dr. Well, y'all guys know what I'm talking about. The ISIS papers. They were very prolific.
Cresswell.
Dr. Francis Cresswell. They were very prolific people in defining what the problem is. And now people are coming after them. People like Tim Wise, them. They are, and this lady called Batalori or something like that. They have taken up the task of trying to define white supremacy and all these kinds of ideas after the fact. And it's funny how the dominant society now looks at people like Tim Wise and Dr. Badaloria now to talk about these issues of white supremacy. When back in the day, Neely Fuller and Dr. Francis Cresswell were scorned for even trying to define the problem as these people currently do it. I find that to be interesting. But I think that Dr. Neely Fuller had some good ideas. Dr. Fuller had some ideas which is not so good mentally for the mindset of people. I think that a lot of the ideas that Neely Fuller talked about was very defeatist. Is very defeatist, and my teachers would not necessarily go along with a lot of the things that Mr. Lee Fuller was proponent of. Interestingly, though, this is when you hear the term FBA. FBA doesn't have a leader. They say the code is the leader. The code is the leader. And when they talk about the code is the leader, they are referring to Neely Fuller's pivotal book, The Compensatory whatever. I can't remember the whole name. It has a bunch of different kinds of names. But it's interesting that FBA says that the code is the book, but they have not read it because nowhere in that code book does Neely Fuller talk about xenophobia and hatred of other black people. Nowhere he talks about that, even though they say the code is the leader. But I think that I would say rest in peace to Neely Fuller for taking up the task of defining the problem in a very psychological way. Yeah, and even though that I don't necessarily agree with everything, we don't have to. I think that Mr. Neely Fuller did his work, as did Dr. Francis Quest Welting. They did their work, and I think that time will tell whether what they said was in fact factual or it could be just dismissed as intellectual rubbish. Time will tell. Now, since both of these people are dead, their ideas goes to history, and time will tell whether their work is proven to be factual and right, or we could just like put it in the trash can. So I would just leave it there. But like I say, rest in peace to Mr. Neely Fuller for all his work, what he has done throughout the years. And I'm not gonna lambaste the man. I just some of the things that I agree with, some of the things not so much. I'll leave it there.
Appreciate that, Bwana. Yeah, I feel similar to you, and I think Trigger Happy is saying the same thing. I thought he says I guess Trigger is saying I liked his emphasis on people activity the most when I ever listened to anything from him. I kind of did like the stops thing that he had. Um, but largely I agree with KW Don 7. Shout out to KW Don 7 who's out in the chat. He says Neely Fuller Jr. gave the framework for white hegemony, but never gave no solutions as to end white hegemony. And I guess in Fuller's mind, the stops thing was a solution, but that to me was more so like Buana pointed out, the code of conduct for black communities, amongst one another. So that's how I viewed that. I never saw him as giving a solution per se, as KW Don 7 would put it, to white hegemony.
He said replace the system of white supremacy with justice. How does one go about doing that? Especially when you're ready to train your people to believe and think that nothing could be done without the white supremacists. How? So you're telling disempowered people or people who you say is in a prison of white supremacy to replace the system with justice. How does one go about doing that? How does one go? And the how is the important feature in the whole exegesis of his conversations. You define the problem, but and then you say replace the problem with this, but you don't give people an explanation of how do you go about methodically doing that. And I think that for me, that'll stand out as far as his work is concerned. But I think that he had something to say. He had something to say. I'll leave it.
With that said, thank you, Juan. With that said, from Anthony. Anthony, would say you?
Yeah, okay, yeah. First of all, I want to say, rest in peace, Mr. Neely Fuller. You know what I'm saying? We go give him that much. Rest in peace. He done went on to join the ancestors. Yeah, I'm just like you brothers, man. Never really, I never really followed him, and I've listened to him, and he does a great job at analyzing. And if you think about it real quick. You know, okay, even though it may not have been his intention, what he wanted, Neely Fuller is the great granddaddy of these FBA people. You know what I'm saying? He's the great granddaddy. You have to you have to put it in context. He's their great granddaddy. Every time you hear Tariq Nasheed talk, what's one of the first things come out his mouth? He's talking about racism, white supremacy. That same concept that Neely Fuller made popular. Racism, white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? But like you said, he don't give you no solutions. Now, what he just said then, we talk about you got to replace the system. But I mean, okay, you look at that on one level, but the real level, the only way to replace that system is you got to kill the perpetrator of the system. And in Neely Fuller's mind, that was something that we can't do. We outnumber, we outgun, like you said, a defeatist mentality. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I always thought about. I said, this is some defeatist shit. And that's why I never could get behind, some of the things that he talked about. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, we really don't need, okay, it's good you analyze the system and showed us what it is. But hell, we done live the system. We know what the hell it is. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, see, to me, when you think of, this is the reason why I say he's the FBA grandfather. See, when you think only in the context of this American war scene, you know what I'm saying? This American part of the war. You know what I'm saying? You thinking only in this part, in this concept. He not seeing what if Neely Fuller had any grant, I don't know if he did, of Ibrahim Traore and the brothers in the Sahel. You know what I'm saying? When he talk about this relationship between blacks and whites, you know, and how it's gonna go to tacky and terroristic and all of that. Well, we see this right now with these brothers over here, with Ibrahim Traore, a big bad brother who's saying, man, fuck that shit. You ain't taking nothing else from us. You ain't doing this. You ain't all of that shit is over with. You know what I'm saying? I wonder, did he see this paradigm of relationship between Europeans and Africans, where the African man is saying, get the hell out of my country. Get the hell away from here. I'm taking control of my own destiny. And I don't think that he's ever seen us as African people in this country taking control of our own destiny. That's why he bring up stuff like get your nuts cut. You know what I'm saying? The castration of the black man in America. We powerless. You know, I don't think he knew that that black men could be powerful. You know what I'm saying? That black people could be powerful, that black people could grab a hold of their own destiny. And so that's why, I mean, like I said, I'm like you, Coco. You know, it was a lot of defeated stuff. And like you and like you said, I mean, how you gonna tell the people what they got to do to overthrow this when at the same time you saying they ain't gonna never overthrow this. So you know, like I say, rest in peace to him. You know what I'm saying? You know, every once in a while he said one or two good things. You know what I'm saying? But like he mostly to me was like hell, like an Al Sharpton type figure, you know. Al Sharpton would see shit everywhere and go and bring attention to it. But you know, hell, how many times you seen him solving the problem? You know what I'm saying? Oh, hey, look, they doing over here. You know what I'm saying? Look what they doing over here. Look what they doing over here. He's like a Ben Crump or something. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, what you gonna do to solve the problem? What you gonna offer us to solve the, give us solutions? And so yeah, man, like I said, rest in peace to him, man. But yeah, you know, no, man, I didn't really buy into much of what he said, you know, all of that, especially, you know, the defeatist kind of stuff. Man, I knock off right there.
Appreciate that, Anthony. Provide triggers for evolution. The chat says, I think Neely has given us an analytical framework for examining our own psychology in this clip when we share space with white folks. It's up to us to self-examine and make attempts at meeting the challenges to our own self-determination. Trigger Happy 262 Plus says Neely Fuller is the first Afro pessimist. That's how I think about him. I still think the FBA misinterpret him, even with a lot of his ideas being insufficient. Is there any last thoughts on this prompt before we move on, I guess? All right. I want to thank everyone who's here tonight. Make sure to hit the like button for me. Share the show when you can. And if you want to join the panel, let's click the link pinned to the top of the chat. And you too can join the panel and have your voice heard as well. Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 tonight. Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 tonight says, quote, I'm from America, but I'm an African first, says DC Youngfly. Why are they mad at that? This came with 2 attachments, both taking us to X. The first one is by this Arthur Watkins Jr. I had to mute him too, because just whatever. But you see he has the American flag in his name. Let me make sure you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. Yes, he has the American flag in his name. He says, I guess I will never see DC Young fly the same way again. This is what Pan-Africanism does to the brain. So we'll watch the short video, maybe twice, and then we'll discuss it.
I'm from America. I'm from America. But I'm African first. I love the way y'all embraced me when I came home. This is my first place, and this where I want to belong. Listen. Keep God first. God brought me here. He sent me here to come help my people. I appreciate this love y'all been giving me. Keep God first. You understand me? We coming back. We coming back home. I love you, I'm from America, but I'm an African first. I love the way y'all embraced me when I came home. This is my first place, and this where I want to belong. Listen. Keep God first. God brought me here. He sent me here to come help my people. I appreciate this love y'all been giving me. Keep God first. You understand me? We coming back. We coming back home. I love you,
So that's DC Young Fly in Ghana speaking to the people out there, the Africans out there. This came with a second attachment that takes us to Sankofa Warrior. He says they really treat the ideology like it's a mental illness or something. He's talking about Pan-Africanism. Mind you, these are the same people who claim to be indigenous, Native Americans, Moors, Hebrew, Olmec, and every other civilization known to man except descendants of enslaved Africans. And he's commenting to the video that we saw and to the caption that this jackass guy Arthur Watkins Jr. had to say. So it reminds me kind of and I Forecast Radio, shout out to Forecast and Realm in the Bush. This past week they were talking about drapetomania, and it almost sounds to me like folks in the Americas feel like if you want to connect with your Africanity, like you kind of have drapetomania that you don't, like it's like a new drapetomania kind of like to not want to be not African is to be crazy, it seems. You know what I mean? Like to not want to just identify as American or something is like it's like insanity, and I find that very interesting. Again, how we mirror certain conversations from the other society. I'll be curious to hear what the panelists have to say. And again, if you want to join the panel, let's click the link. And you too can share your thoughts up here. Let me start with Anthony on this one. I got to unmute your mic first, Anthony. Let me start with Anthony. What are your thoughts on DC Young Fly and the sentiments by this poster that he won't really look at DC Young Fly the same again? Go ahead.
Yeah, man. I seen a video on IG, man. I think what was yesterday, a couple of days ago, and I was just like, yeah, there you go, brother. There you go, right there. I was happy, man. It made me feel good, man. About the brother, because I didn't know he had that kind of consciousness. Myself, I didn't know that he had that. But I thought it was a beautiful thing, man. It just goes to prove, it goes to show that when you have all these, and I'll get on that in a minute. When you have some of these Negroes on these YouTube channels and IG channels, man, I was looking at IG this weekend and I seen so many, Koku, of these damn Negroes getting on there talking about I ain't no African and talking So, man, you know, talk about being a black indigenous and aboriginal. I seen so much of it, man. I had to start blocking people, man. You know what I'm saying? I had to start blocking channels and shit. I said, man, we get this shit on about here. I mean, this whole Native American thing just went crazy. But I'm like, I just have to go back to see this is I'm gonna tell you that right here. This was a plan. This was a plan. This was a plan straight down from the government. I'm telling you on everything. Believe this. It was a plan straight down from the government. Because you know we're gonna put some people out here to go and talk this shit and spread this shit around. And because like I remember, I had a video. I got some videos in my archives, and I think that I may have I sent some to you, Koku. It was a Black Liberation Day in 1972. The brother who organized it was from my hometown. His name's Owusu Sadoki. He was one of the chief organizers of Black Liberation Day in Washington, D.C. Man, you know, Emiri Baraka was the chief speaker. Man, it was 30,000 black people came out. And it was a beautiful thing, man. You ought to go back and look at that. Just Google up Black Liberation Day, African Liberation Day, 1972. The video, about a 30-minute video. Man, it was awesome to see all of these black people, 30,000 black people dressing their dashikis, their afros, and sisters looking beautiful. And then the continent over there, the Caribbean, it was just everything. And they had one segment. It was simultaneous. They had Walter Rodney was in San Francisco, and he was talking about African identity and everything, and how we went from Africans to Negroes. You know what I'm saying? And so what I'm saying is, this is the stuff we all back in the 70s and the late 60s, we always embraced our African identity. You know, from the movies and when brother told you the Asian to the Afro-centric music, you know, black is beautiful, Africa is beautiful. And so right now today, what we got, I think is like it's some top, it's from the top that this shit started. They come down with this whole I ain't no African shit. Because you know what they see? They see that finally our people on the continent of Africa are waking up in droves. You get a new brand of leadership that are saying enough of this neo-colonialist shit, enough of this old worshiping white shit. You know what I'm saying? And when they do it, they say, well, you know what? Them Africans over in America and in the diaspora, you know, they in the beginning, they had the leadership in all of this race first talk. You know, your Marcus Garveys, you know what I'm saying? And your people like the brother like Mackendal Daaga in Trinidad and Tobago. See, they were the leaders of this. But now, see, the paradigm has shifted to Africa. So we got to dumb down these Negroes over here and put them on this old bullshit. And we're gonna give you this Dane Callaways. We're gonna give you these other black aboriginal. I'm from here, I ain't from no Africa. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna give you your Tariq Nasheed to go out and spew out the bullshit that he spew out. You know what I'm saying? Because see, we cannot allow these people to link up. We do not want these Africans in America, these Africans in the Caribbean, and these Africans in Brazil. Hey, I was just looking at it's a show on YouTube called Black in Brazil, and this brother was talking about the same thing. His show was just yesterday. It's called Black Brazil on YouTube. Look him up. He was talking about the same damn thing. And I'm saying it's in the interest of this government, of all Western governments, not to see all of these black people come together. And so we got to play that divide and conquer stuff. We got to reach back and get some of them old house Negroes. Y'all go out and tell them people, man, y'all ain't got nothing to do with them damn Africans. You know, man, I heard a sister on the show the other day talking about black African American hair is different than African hair. Talking about African hair more coarse. I mean, you know, the stupidest shit that you ever heard of.
Because they buy the weed from different places.
Yeah, say some of the dumbest shit that I ever heard of. Talking about their hair different, their hair stronger than ours. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I said, come on, man, with this bullshit. So what I'm saying, man, this is a plan. This is a plot, man. These Negroes, you know, like I said, them white folks play checkers, man. I mean, they play chess and we playing checkers. And we got to wake up and realize. I listened at Abraham Trejo's speech and listen at this speech that he was talking about when he was reaching out to the diaspora. And you, by the way, you know, that brother said, everybody over there, come on, y'all can come back home. Burkina Faso was open for y'all to come back home and come over here and contribute. You know what I'm saying? To help build a strong Burkina Faso and a stronger Africa. But I mean, I think that I don't want to go on too long, Coco. I don't want to say that was a beautiful thing. And you're gonna anytime you got some beautiful stuff, you're gonna always have somebody who gonna come along and try to mess it up. Hell, even your show, man. Yeah, your show. You know, you're gonna lay there and have some Trojan horses gonna come on your show and try to throw it off. On any platform, not just any platform. You're gonna have somebody who gonna come and try to throw a monkey wrench. Oh man, it ain't about this. So what I'm saying, we gotta, this gonna happen, man. I mean, I get so sick and tired of these FBA. I mean, I don't even want to give them no power, man. I know we gotta talk about stuff. But I mean, when I hear that type of that African shit, man, I just, man, I try to tune this shit out, man. I don't even want to hear that dumbass shit. But I mean, but yeah, man, I'm not gonna read that, man. I just thought it was a beautiful thing, man. I loved it. Go ahead, Coco.
Appreciate that, Anthony. I think the thing with DC, and Cheryl is kind of talking about it here in the chat. She says, "Sorry, I can't rock with DC. He married to a non-African. I think that's the woman that died, right? And like our brother Anthony said earlier, we no one had an idea that he had any consciousness. I think that's the thing. I think he didn't. I think it was one of those, and we've seen this a lot too for years now. I think it's one of those Richard Pryor types of things. You went to Africa, not thinking much about it, and then realize, wow, I am because of these folks here, right? I am because of them, and I'm an African. And I think it hits you. I haven't been to the continent yet. I hope to remedy that soon. But I think it hits you, even if you're not particularly conscious. And again, we talked about it earlier. If you're not conscious, should we hold that against you? That you don't subscribe to the, say, 3 pillars of consciousness? Should we hold that against you? Now, I always say that to me is a natural thing if you're a black person to date and marry black people. That's my belief. I know some people on the panel in the past have disagreed with me. But I think like a dog doesn't try to, fuck around with a cat like that. A dog fucks around with a dog. Like, animal, we as animals, as human beings, we supposed to find our own. But again, if we never got to a DC Young Fly when he was coming up, is it his fault? Should we hold that against him? Is really my question. Kind of like a follow-up question to this prompt as well. Let me see what Jacadero has to say. Jacadero, what say you?
Man, it was awesome to see this for the first time. I seen his stand up. He had came to my city and I had watched his stand up, and just like Anthony was saying, I wasn't aware that he even had an interest into, whether you call it consciousness or even traveling to Africa. But I want to say this, in that speech that he's giving on top of this, it looks like on top of a car, he says something that I think we miss, and it's the love that you guys showed me. I'm going to deep dive on this for a little bit and say that when people travel, you guys would be surprised that especially when Americans travel to whatever country, the country that shows them hospitality the most is usually the country that they resonate for the rest of their life. And they say, hey, there's a chance that if I ever leave the United States, this would be my home. Now, I'm not saying that if he were to have a bad time, I think this is Ghana. I don't know. Maybe this is Ghana. It looks like a West African country. But if he had a bad time, I'm not necessarily sure if he would get on top of a car and have those proclamations that he had said. But I am saying that it's in each of us to show people, whether they're a guest of our homes, that we are hospitable. Now, that's not to say like, we should be doormats and just let people walk all over us. No, but I am saying that when you treat your guests well, best believe that they have a good impression of you, and then thus it has them feeling like this is a person and this is a home that if ever were something to go wrong, or if ever I leave wherever I'm staying at, I would make this my second home. People do that when they visit. I know that when I was in college, when people would, you know, come and visit me, you know, they would, because of my hospitality and maybe like the good times that I would show them at my college, they would say, man, like, like, I, if my credits transfer, man, I would consider coming here. So it just goes back to hospitality. I look at this and say that there's a big chance that he was just treated really, really well, and thus it sparked an interest in him to say those proclamations that he had stated. But yeah, otherwise it was a great video to watch. Great clip.
Thank you for that, Jacadero. Cheryl is in the chat. In addition to saying he married a non-African, she says he got some issues with his color. Just listen to his jokes. She says he don't even like his hair texture. She says just watch the 85 South show. You'll see what I'm talking about. Cheryl, you're welcome to come up on the panel. We have a light panel tonight. You're welcome to come on the panel and express yourself some more if you wish. Trigger Happy 262 Plus says, I hope he continues to increase and refine that consciousness. And ultimately, that's my feeling too. I hope he grows in his consciousness from this point on. Buana, you've heard everything else everyone else had to say. What say you to all of it?
Yes, sir. So I'm listening to Jacadero, and saying that you should be hospitable with people. So when I come to Omaha, Nebraska, hopefully he extends the red card. And, and I can stay at his house for as long as I want. But no. I think this is a good thing for the see what Koku asked a question. Koku said that should we treat him, or how should we treat people who don't have a race consciousness kind of thing? And for me personally, you are your best representative for whatever you stand for. If I am a Christian person, but when I get around other people, I am very horrible and nasty and mean. When people think of Christians, they don't want to associate themselves with me. But if I say, I'm a Christian person, and a Christian person treats me well, I can say, well, okay, I'll attach my ideology to who I am. So I gotta remember, okay, Christians are like this, because they'll remember the person who was extending to me grace and kindness and respect. So here's what I try to do, even with people who are black people who are intolerant and mean and nasty in terms of black nationalism and ideas of Pan Africanism. I never get into a name calling contest. I let them call me all the names in the world, because first of all, if I had a conversation with them, not only me and the person is speaking, usually someone else is listening, and they are listening to how you respond to the conversation. So I don't get nasty. I don't get flustered. I try to be as humane as possible and civil as possible. This is what Marcus Garvey talk about diplomacy. I am a diplomat of the ideology that I practice. So when I get around people who may not necessarily be race conscious, I just could be respectful of their humanity. I'll be civil to them. But like I say, I am my best representative of my ideology, just as everyone else is and what they pushing. So I am glad that he was able to have this experience. People have openings at different times in their life. Like Martin Luther King was not Martin. Malcolm X was once Detroit Red, and then he had another opening, and it turned him into Malcolm X. And then he had another intellectual opening, and I turned him to El Haj Malik Shabazz. You have people have different openings at different stages of their life. So you have to give some people the grace to be able to have the opportunity to grow. Now, some people like Jesse Lee Peterson, forget about it. He is gonna be like that until he's dead. But but even with him, you should give people like that grace as well. Like I say, I think that people have openings at different time, and as the panels stating and people in the audience listening, hopefully he'll be able to increase and refine his consciousness, like Trigger Happy is basically saying in the chat. So I do agree with that. As he grows, I hope that his mind grows, and I hope that the people who are riding with him, because I'm sure he has a big following and a big audience. I hope they are able to grow with him as well. So they'll take this consciousness to another kind of level. So much respect to the young brother.
Now, with that said, because I think Anthony addressed it, and Anthony, I'll come back to you in a second. Anthony addressed this, and I don't think Buana and Jacadero did really. But what's with the hate of African American going and embracing and speaking and identifying themselves as African? Why is it someone has to come along and, to use Anthony's terms, muck it up with some negativity? So I'll throw it out there. First, I'll go to Anthony, and then I'll let Buana and Jacadero add their thoughts. Anthony, what are your thoughts to that?
Yeah, yeah. You know what, Coco? I just want Buana kind of hit on it a little bit. What I was gonna say was this. Remember, we got to remember. Since I'm speaking, to my not at, but to my sister, Cheryl. I agree. Hey, look, I agree with you, Cheryl. Me, a white woman can't do a damn thing for me. Not ever. A white woman, any other woman that ain't black. What I'm saying, this thing about it though. Malcolm away, 19, 21-year-old Malcolm away, because he was running around with white girls. And then when he was that age, all he had was white girls. You know what I'm saying? But Malcolm at that age didn't have no consciousness. No, he didn't give a damn about none of it. He wouldn't think about no Pan-Africanism, about no black nationalism. He was thinking about being a hustler, being a criminal, doing what he was doing. He didn't have that. He didn't have that. Even though his parents were Garveyites. But so what if we just throw Malcolm away and know how we love Malcolm? Or what if we just throw Dr. Kwame Nkrumah away for marrying that Arab woman from Egypt? You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not justifying, them marrying non-Africans. I mean, because to me, that's terrible. I'm saying if you ain't gonna marry a black woman, if you're a man, you ain't gonna marry a black woman. If you're a sister, you ain't gonna marry a black man. You made a political choice. You know what I'm saying? And I can't trust you like that. You know what I'm saying? But I also have to put it in context. Where was their consciousness at? You know what I'm saying? Malcolm at that time probably wasn't thinking about that. So DC Young Fly, I really I don't even know him. I just seen the video. I don't know. I didn't know whether he was a comedian or I didn't know none of that. Anything about it. But let's see if the young brother, if he coming into some consciousness, if this opened up his eyes, and let's give him a little chance. You know what I'm saying? And if we see him next year, or whatever, running around with Becky and all that stuff, okay, yeah, throw that fool away. You know what I'm saying? But that's all I wanted to say, man. Let's don't judge the brothers and sisters who don't have no consciousness. You know what I'm saying? Against people who know better. You ain't gonna judge a child too harshly if the child don't know right from wrong. You know what I'm saying? But when they become a 16, 17-year-old, they know better. And so that's all I wanted to say right there, man. I knock off Coco.
I appreciate that, Anthony. Cheryl said, yeah, she'll come on. So let's try to give her some time to find her way on. Trigger Happy 262 plus to what Anthony was saying. He said they should still be criticized for their marriage or mating choices, but their work shouldn't be dismissed. Talking about Nkrumah, Malcolm X, etc. What say you, Buana and Jacadero? Anyone can answer. You guys go for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jacadero. Go ahead.
Yeah. You asked why there's a resistance from FBAs or Black Americans whenever they attach themselves to the continent or anything continent adjacent. And I think it just goes back to this might be a reach, but I think that this goes back to money. Uh, you look at the NBA, and there were people that were upset that Joel Embiid and Bam Adebayo played and got quality minutes for Team USA during these last Olympics because Joel Embiid is born and raised in Cameroon, and then Bam Adebayo, one of his parents is Nigerian. So looking at it and saying, man, that was an opportunity for possibly another FBA to be on that squad, but instead they got their roster spots taken by Africans, by Black immigrants. So I think that this comes back to money. Another example is the film industry in the United States. If memory can serve me correct, I believe it was Samuel Jackson, and he had like a slight dig at Black immigrant actors, saying like,
Yes,
these
he did.
guys. Yeah, right. That was him, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, yeah, it was him.
Yeah, and he had like a slight dig on Black immigrant actors and saying like, I can't remember the quote, but something along the lines of like, it's high time that we start looking at how are these Black immigrants uh, getting auditions and thus getting roles that anybody else that's from here can get. So I believe a lot of it is just FBAs and other African Americans seeing that, man, there's only a pot of this amount of money. I know that you guys can't see my hands, but it's maybe a handful of money, and saying like, if we're not getting that, Black immigrants are getting that. And so Black immigrants are our biggest competition. And so when they see a DC Young Fly going to Africa, they're even more disgusted because they're saying like, man, you should be every bit of a American patriot as possible, because when you go to Ghana, you're just taking your money. I believe this was in Ghana. When you go to Ghana, you're taking your money and you're empowering the Ghanaian economy rather than staying in the United States and empowering like a Black neighborhood or a United States economy.
And you know what, Jacadero, I understand that statement, and I understand Samuel L. Jackson's statement, because he is not talking as far as a global African. That statement wasn't born out of a global African perspective. It was born out of an African American perspective. So if he sees, because we discussing labor, and if he sees that people are coming in and for getting opportunities as Black actors, where he probably knows many various Black American actors who could fit the same role. He questions. I saw my brothers them to get some jobs too. What were the brothers them who've been trying to get acting roles for years and years? So I understand that in this perspective is where you see it as, and I'm not begrudging him because of that, because I don't expect that. Um, Samuel L. Jackson should be a Pan African person. That's not his job. But I would say this. The people like Samuel L. Jackson. One of the Americans' biggest thing when they had one of their Revolutionary Wars, I think they said, no taxation without representation. No taxation without representation. So you can't tax the people without being represented. You can't without them having representation in the highest forms of government. You know what I mean? You can't take my money and reach down in my pocket without me being represented in any way as far as power is concerned. Well, the same thing applies in other ways too. Because I look at it like this. If I am in America and America mistreats me and treats me like dirt, and I go to a country that I've never been to before and I am embraced. Some of these rappers, I think Meek Mill met with the president of Ghana. He was in the presidential place. If you are treated like a king in one country and mistreated in another country, what are you supposed to do then? You're gonna go with the people who embrace you the most, not the people who reject you and spitting on you, even though you was born into a country. How the whole thing of allegiance becomes extremely questionable because you looking at this and saying, well, okay, my country treats me like shit. Yes, I have citizenship there. Yes, I pay taxes there, but they mistreat me. Whereas I have a genetic relationship with these people from this part of the world, and when I get there, they treat me like a king. So now the whole allegiance thing will become questionable. It's like, okay, maybe I should spend my money here. Maybe I should spend my money here. So, like I said, I understand where the Samuel L. Jackson is coming from as far as labor is concerned. Of course, you want to see the brothers and sisters within your community who you probably been in that community for many, many years and see them try. And you say, okay, they should be given an opportunity and chance, especially when it comes to jobs and roles that's in representation of African American people. Of course, you want them to get the first opportunity. What I would say though, for people like Samuel L. Jackson, who is, by the way, one of the most wealthiest actors in the world, is he needs to put his money where his mouth is. So you've been acting for more than maybe 20, 30 years. You need to build a studio where you could hire these people and create and hire all the people you want to hire who are African American people. It's enough to come to just talk about it, but you have enough money to facilitate that process. Yeah, because you can't make the excuse of, okay, we ain't big enough. Broke Nigerians created Nollywood. You sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars, so you should be able to put your money where your mouth is, just as Tyler Perry has, and the very few black people who have been able to build like a movie studio to be able to employ African American people. So, like I say, the talking game is beautiful, but it's not enough to do that, especially when you're sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars. Put your money where your mouth is if you really mean what you say. But I'll leave it there, Koku.
I appreciate those. By the way, Samuel L. Jackson is supposed to be a black nationalist kind of guy. He was in SNCC back when Kwame Ture and them was in SNCC. He's supposed to have some consciousness. I know his wife is supposed to have some consciousness too. So yeah,
Clarence Thomas was the Black Panther. That's years ago, bro. Years ago.
yeah. But you made an excellent point about put your money where your mouth is. Since you want to see more black folks, black Americans in particular, acting, why don't you do like Tyler Perry did and open up a studio? That's a great point. With that said, quickly, KW Dawn 7 in the chat says FBA equals fecal matter brain assimilationist. Sound like our brother Kamji verse there. Thanks for that, KW Dawn 7. I can fires in the chat. He said black Americans never became Native Americans until 2018. LOL. A CIA operation. With all of that said, our sister Cheryl was kind enough to join us on the panel. So Cheryl, Shoot the Breeze Stopping Before says, quote, I am from America, but I'm an African first, says DC Youngfly. Why are they mad at that? Cheryl, what are your thoughts? Take your time. What are your thoughts on all of it?
Okay, so I'll just first want to preface this by saying that he's a celebrity. So I mean, we can't expect too much from celebrities. So there's that. And then secondly, it says why they mad at that. I'm not sure who's mad. I think I missed that. Who was mad that he was saying that? I think I may have missed that.
Some of the FBA ADOS types. Like as a matter of fact, let me show you right here. The poster, Arthur Watkins Jr. with the American flag in his handle, said, I guess I will never see DC Young fly the same way again. This is what Pan-Africanism does to the brain. That's what that refers to.
Oh, that's crazy. I mean, it's great that he went back to Africa. He connected and everything. But anytime I see celebrities, from America, from anywhere, and this happens like this, I just automatically think, well, what about like I'm thinking about like the money. Maybe 85 South show isn't doing so great. I haven't seen them do any shows lately. Maybe the money is running dry. I think somebody said something about money earlier. Um, but DC Young Fly, I don't think he has any ill intentions. I think he's just as confused as a lot of black people are, in the States, in the Caribbean and Africa. I mean, he has a lot of this their same confusions. So I think just, I wouldn't even put much on it. It's great to see. I always love to see African American people, go to the continent and connect like that. It's very powerful to see, but in terms of like this anything coming of this, I don't see it. I kind of see them sharing their confusions. Like, okay, so a good example of this is there was an interview with DC Young Fly and Jesse Lee Peterson. It was hilarious. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but I think that interview kind of outlines his confusions. And I think if you watch and you really analyze it, you'll see what I'm talking about. And it's a lot of the same confusions that a lot of our people have. So I don't know. I just leave it there.
I appreciate that, Cheryl. I was trying to quickly look it up, but you stopped
It was
talking.
hilarious. You gotta see it. If you haven't seen it, you're gonna laugh so hard.
What's my man name again? He was with DC Young Fly and
DC Young Fly and Jesse Lee Peterson. It's on the Jesse Lee Peterson show.
yeah, I'm trying to find it real quick to see if I could see if I could play a little bit of it.
But the man, like I will say, DC Young Fly, he has a lot of potential. Like he's very quick witted. He's very smart. It's just misdirected and it's misguided and it's unfortunate. He's just confused.
Let me see if I can play a little bit of it here.
That what do you think about that?
Free him.
That
Call free him.
free him?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You know what that mean? Let him go.
Let him stay here even though he's illegal.
Who said that? Free him.
Let him stay anyway.
You look illegal, nigga. Anybody come take your green card, nigga. You look like, yeah.
Apparently he
What
was
you
born.
mean?
Apparently he was born
Look
in the
like
UK.
your name Akbar Kapakapa. Fuck wrong with you.
Does it matter to you that he was born in the UK, came here, overstayed his visa, and
What
now
is
he's
this land? What is this land? What they call it? The land of the free? Land of the free.
Isn't he in jail right now or somewhere? He
don't
ain't
know.
free, that's for sure. Shouldn't he go back to the UK and come in the right way again if he can?
Man, my boy from the east side of Atlanta, man.
Oh yeah?
He's from Zone 6.
His what?
He from Zone 6.
So did you know him in Atlanta?
He from Zone 6.
You ever met him?
He from Zone 6.
Have you met him personally?
Who? Yeah, I know him.
21 Savage.
I know him.
Oh, you do? What is he like in person? What's your impression of him?
He's a real genuine guy, man. You know what I'm saying? Everything he does is entertainment, man. Well, he take care of his family, he take care of the community. So, in my point of view, free him.
Knowing him, were you surprised he didn't tell you that he was here
Man, what the
illegally?
hell is you talking about? There's a lot of people you know. They don't tell you everything. Who the hell to say that is true? Free him.
Oh, it might not be true about him being here illegally?
I don't know.
So you'd rather for him to stay as an illegal rather than get deported back home or sent back home?
Free him.
Amazing. Let me ask you about another thing that's
I'm sorry, Jesse Lee Peterson's hard for me to watch. Amazing.
I think it's hilarious. Oh my god.
Yeah, I can see DC Young Fly is playing it up. Playing it up. Anthony, did you want to add something? Hold on, I'm trying to see if Anthony. I thought I saw him on camera.
Yeah, man, that's hilarious, man. I didn't know he did a show with Jesse Lee Peterson. But yeah, I just wanted to say to Cheryl, though, man, I get it. I get where you're coming from. You know what I'm saying, Sister Cheryl? Because, yeah, Malcolm even told us about, you got to watch out for these Negro celebrities. You know what I'm saying? Because you know what they're all about. But only thing I'm just saying, he a young guy, and you know what? maybe if he had people like us get in his ear, we might could teach him a little something. That's all I want to say. That's good, Coco.
Appreciate that. If there's no last thoughts on this prompt, let's go to Shooter Breeze topic number 5 tonight. Hold on, let me make sure I set that up properly. It's already Shooter Breeze topic number 5. So, Shooter Breeze topic number 5 says, why is it taking so long? Shooter Breeze topic number 5 says, could it be said any better? Reference 19 Keys and what he had to say about Africa. You guys in the chat, drop a 1 for me if you are familiar with 19 Keys. I'm loosely familiar. I don't follow the brother, but I have a little idea who he is. You guys let me know if you're familiar with him. Let me make sure you guys can see. No, you cannot see my screen. Okay, my bad. 19 Keys on Twitter. Sharing with you guys now. You guys should be able to see it. No, maybe not. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that, guys. So 19 Keys on Twitter says, why y'all get mad when I talk about Africa? So this is a just over 3-minute video. We'll watch it and then we'll comment to it.
Peace, family, on my way to the gym. But I want to understand why y'all get so mad when I talk about Africa. I want to understand from my black American brothers, man. It doesn't make any sense. It don't give you more power. It don't stop you from actually building home in America. You having this overt identity pride in American soil, right? Doesn't mean you building shit. Doesn't mean you have any power. Doesn't mean you getting money. Doesn't mean you developing a skill set. Because all that time that you can take for the vigor and the hate that you have for the African brothers, you could just be building outside and developing wealth in a country that you claim to love so much. Because I know I've done more in America than 99% of y'all. You feel me? So for me, when I look at Africa, it makes both business and cultural sense that if I'm thinking about Africa as an opportunity for us to go out there and build with the brothers and sisters. I'm from America, for sure, for sure. I know my history in America, and I know how great we are. I know about the warrior class and the innovators and the inventors that we come from, right? I don't need some fake sense of pride to have some war on Twitter to make me feel like, I'm some great black American patriot. That's fake and that's false and that's fraudulent. You feel me? That's you trying to escape the insecurities of not actually doing something with this land and this time and this opportunity that you have in America. So, when I say Africa is the future, I mean that shit, damn it. That don't mean that our opportunities, we are the present. So take advantage of that. We've been the present. You feel me? But Africa, at this place where the average age is 19 years old, right? And a lot of these places lack infrastructure. It's easier to build a future over there, right? There's a lot of opportunity. I get hit up by countries that have textile factories and things of that nature that want to do business. You think I'm not going to do business with my African brothers because of some people on Twitter that don't like it? You sound stupid. It's a reason why the Indians and the Chinese are there. It'd be best, more adapted for us to do business with each other, right? But for those who have the right spirit and not just trying to rob each other. Now, there's a lot of corruption that needs to be weeded out in Africa at the top from the leadership. There's a lot of infrastructure that has to be built there, right? I know people who went out there and created porta potty businesses and made millions, right? You can take simple ideas in Africa that they don't have and you can build. So you take your degrees and your knowledge and your skill set, but only if you got the right mindset. Don't go over there as a colonizer. And I'm not going over there looking for myself. When I already found myself, I already know who I am. You see the sun, moon, and stars on my hat. You know what I'm saying? I'm going over there as a God, speaking to the people, figuring out how we can do business together, do trade together, right? And having the art of global allies. We've lost that art of global allies. You think you're gonna win by yourself? How? When we divided in America by every single thing that we can think of that divides us. Every single day you're looking for another reason why you don't want to work with somebody. That's weak-minded. So anyway, Africa is the future. We are the present. Let's build together. Peace.
So, I realized in the video he kind of just jumps into uh, the his response. So what I wanted to do is find I wanted to find a video where he talked about Africa originally. But instead, what I'll do is, and this guy, I've had him on the show before, Maj Toure retweeted Africa is the future. I just want to share this with y'all, let y'all hear a little bit of the commentary from Maj, I guess. So this is Maj.
It doesn't mean you're developing a skill set, because all that time that you can take for the vigor and the hate that you have for the African brothers, you could just be building outside and developing wealth in a country that you claim to love so much. Because I know I've done more in America than 99% of y'all. You feel me? Africa is the future. We are the present. Let's build together. Peace.
Solutionaries, that was 19 keys with back to back to back to back facts. So many facts. It's a factory. I want to give some pros and cons and a little bit of context to what I think the brother was saying there, and just add a little bit of the perspective. Getting attacked on social media for doing something that most people are not doing. If you were not aware, Keys has been over to Africa, Egypt. I just think he just came back from Japan or something like that. We follow each other on the socials, right? The people that have not traveled internationally and do not have a thought process of I can do X, Y, and Z, a lot of times they hit social media and they get mad, specifically when you start talking about Africa, because there's been a certain level of like self-hate ingrained into a lot of so-called African Americans. Y'all haven't done anything. You mad that I'm talking about Africa and these opportunities, and me doing this over here has nothing to do with why you haven't built anything where you at when you say you this patriot. Now, for those that don't understand what a patriot is, I'm a patriot. A patriot is a person that loves their countrymen and their countrywomen. Most patriots hate the government that they're so-called under. I do not fuck with the United States government at all. It has been corrupt. It has killed leaders of all backgrounds. Obviously, you guys know the story with Dr. King. You guys know the lawsuit, proving the CIA, FBI. You already know all of that. I do not fuck with the government. And in my opinion, Keys falls as a patriot too, because it would be hard-pressed to say, whether you like Keys or you don't, you would be hard-pressed to say that he doesn't care for his community, okay? So that patriot conversation as it relates to people that only identify as a patriot with no work and or results that go along with that, those people usually hop on social media and just say shit, especially when they are identified with the self-hate virus, right? So you get the self-hate virus, you get somebody that's doing something, you haven't been nowhere, you haven't built anything, and then you give them social media. So I think he's making reference to some of those folks. As far as it relates to Africa, I've been to Africa 3 times. It's been years. Ghana, Senegal, Egypt. Years. I started going to Africa when I was 19. Quick story. I remember going to Senegal first. I was in Dakar. I tried to learn how to speak Wolof. Very difficult language to learn. Anyway, where I worked, the owner of a spot in the spot down south where I worked, his family was like, yo, you want to go to Dakar? And I'm like, yeah, I'll go. And so I was nervous because I had that thought process that, oh, all of the Africans over there hate African Americans, right? That's what we've told. So as I'm over there, I was there for 2 weeks. And as I'm over there, I remember the first few days and everybody was so loving and kind and just generally like nice. And I told him, I said, yo, y'all, I kind of had y'all pegged wrong, pause. I thought that y'all on the continent or in this country didn't rock with African Americans. And they laughed and I said, what's up? They said, damn, we were told the same thing. So somebody in the middle putting salt in the game to make sure that people don't work together, okay? And my lived experience is anecdotal because it's my 3 times on the continent in 3 different countries. It's another sidebar. Africa's a big ass continent. It's got a ton of countries in it. But my experience in 3 countries in Africa was not what is being told to us. Now, as far as the political corruption, absolutely. Like South Africa, a few times, excuse me, one time, but not for long enough to really get a good beat on it. But corruption, okay? Infrastructure problems, absolutely. The only thing that America might have up on that is America has generally solid infrastructure across the country. But when you look at it as Africa being the breadbasket for the rest of the world and all of these countries coming in and corrupt leadership selling the resources, selling the minerals for pennies on a dollar, right? For their own individual gain. You got to look at, yeah, if you let a place be instead of extracting all of the time, then okay, you're going to have some infrastructure issues. My point in saying that is America might have infrastructure, but America, you taxed all over the place, right? There's pros and cons to each scenario. Now, what Keys is saying as it relates to you going and looking at the opportunities in other nations, especially a super black nation where countries like Ghana have been like, yo, come on back. If you're African American, let's rebuild that bridge. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But you shouldn't go over there with this mentality that I'm just going to extract, and not build bridges and it be a mutually beneficial exchange.
I'm going to stop that there because I think that's super important. I talked about that a few weeks back, or maybe a few months back. One of the problems with a lot of repatriation is folks end up really going back to the continent to undermine the people there, whether knowingly or unknowingly. But you go back there with your U.S. dollars, and you go and you get into some industry, some local industry there, and because you have the U.S. dollars behind you, you undercut the people there. But that's a different story for another time. The idea here is that 19 Keys told his African American peoples that Africa is the future, and a lot of people had pushback. They didn't like what he had to say. My goodness, they didn't like what he had to say, and so here we are. In the chat, Bakari BBN Black Business Network said 19 Keys is a scammer. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with him. It seemed like he got on this FBA type of bandwagon recently. So there's that. Trigger Hobby 262 Plus in the chat says, I saw some recent tweet from him that said Pan-Africanism is a psyop. I think he is somewhat of a fence sitter. So, there's those things. Provide Triggers is familiar with 19 Keys. Icon Fire says, I know him, but these conscious Americans don't want to go to Africa. That's a interesting conversation that we will have now. But first, let me welcome our brother Black Steel this week. Black Steel, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just getting in. Traffic, man, there's a little traffic, but I made it. Man of my word. Glad to be here.
Appreciate you. All right, let's hang out for a minute. Let me get to some of the other folks, and then I'll come to you next. Let me mix it up a bit. Let me go to Buana. Buana, what say you to this?
First of all, let me say that Black Seal, I'm happy you're here. You should have been here a long time ago. It's 10:21. I don't know what you're doing. This is CP time or something. But let me just say, um, I am not trying to convince anyone. Well, let me say, I'm not trying to convince the African American community that they need to travel more and be exposed more. That is the job of people like Black Steel. That is the job of people like Anthony McPhail, and that is a job for them to do, to expose them to say, hey, get a passport, travel more, interact with your global Black community more. Because see these people every day, so that's their job to do that. And how I personally look at 19 Keys, even though what he said is very true, is very true, and what this brother said, I think this is brother with Black Guns Matter. I can't remember his name now. He is a person who pushes Marjorie. What he said was very true as well. I mean, it's nothing what these brothers say. I disagree with. On a personal level, I watch the Magical Hats. Whenever I see these young brothers come with these magical looking hats, I question from Brother Polite time. When Brother Polite used to wear that nice little funny style hat, and then uh, uh, Dr. Umar Johnson like to wear these African hats. All of them like to wear the funny hat. Malachi York wear these hats and stuff like that. I'm very leery of these guys, brothers. Man. I'm very leery of them. I ain't saying that they gonna do the same kind of actions as these guys. I'm just saying I find them very questionable from time to time. I don't have no axe to grind with this brother. I wish him well. He said he represent the sun, moon, and stars. Is he Nation of Islam? I don't know what he is. Is he? I don't know where his background. I don't know what his ideology is. I just see him out there like a
I
Billy
think
Carson. He's Nation
I
of
think he's
Islam.
5%. I think, yeah.
Okay, so they put themselves out there and they doing their thing. I ain't trying to be a spoke in their wheels. I wish them much success. But me put on a personal level, from the Brother Polite stages and all these other guys, I relaxed off of that. Yes, what these brothers say is good, but I just sit around. I want to see what the work is before I get involved in what these, because people talk. They say they talk very big. They talk very big about who they exposed to and what they doing. But I just like to just take it easy and go slow to find out who these people are, what their background and what their work actually is before I make a judgment on them personally. But as far as what the brother was saying, I agree with 100%. I agree with. I'll leave it at Koku.
Appreciate that, Buana. Let's hear from Jacadero.
Yeah, the question. I think the question for this prompt is like, could it been said any better? 19 Keys is questioning like why people, his viewers. It sounds like he's talking about Black Americans get upset when he brings up Africa, and just like I said with the last prompt, it goes down to finances. The Black Americans that might be upset when African Americans like 19 Keys or Maj Toure bring up Africa is because I feel that a large part of them don't feel like financially they're connected with Africa. I'll give an example like Detroit. Detroit has access to, I think it's the Detroit River that flows into Canada. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's residents of Detroit that feel like, well, how can I connect with Africa? But we have an international waterway that if goods from Africa can be shipped to Canada and flowed by ferry into Detroit, maybe just maybe now we could be talking about something. But for a large part, Black populated cities in the United States, they don't necessarily have that direct commerce with African cities. And so they feel like, well, what's the point? I'm not financially benefiting, so why would I? Why would I connect? Why would I want to hear about Africa? You're just talking nonsense because it's not making any financial sense.
Appreciate that, Jacadero. Provide triggers.
Yeah, but
Says Muslim. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Buana.
yeah, but and I hear what Jacadero was saying, right? When they say, well, in terms of geography, but they never question where do you get the coltan from to speak to your mother on your cell phone every day? I mean, it becomes almost retarded, you go to Zales to propose to your woman. Where did them diamonds coming from? Where them diamonds come? You think they coming from America? Come on, man. See, like I say, this is the reason. No, Jack. This is the reason I say I leave these kinds of conversations to brothers and sisters like yourself because you maybe understand it better than I can, and brothers like brother Anthony McFall and Bakari. Because it's like if you are thinking about how this chicken is made, then we will never understand each other. If you think that Popeye's chicken, the chicken you get every day, is not produced on a farm from somewhere, they have to like take the feathers off, and then they have to import it, and then you have to make. You just think the sandwiches make itself. It's like, come on, bro. And this disconnection is the reason why it would be better for brothers with better understanding to be able to explain to the brothers who are close to them and say, no, don't go like that. Coltan is produced in Uganda, and they import that into because it's the most funniest thing. You may not find a connection with Africa, but your boss, your white boss, who you work for, she's been to Africa 100 times, and she's adopted a Kenyan little girl who lives with her.
Yeah.
They have root. They go the plane when they go to Kenya. The plane is full of European tourists.
So,
but
so
you but you, but you have no connection. You have no. So for me, a person like me, I would just rather the brothers them like yourself and the other brothers to explain it because you talking to international people like myself. So when you hear a person like me, you don't go thinking, oh, ooga booga. Oh no, that's my brother from the Bahamas, you know. But whereas your other brother from Nebraska, who may have not spoken to a person like myself, may think ooga booga. Oh, he has Udo here. Come on, bro. Relax. No, it's not like that. It's really like this. So I leave that job for my brothers and sisters on the ground who have a better understanding to explain and give their brothers on the ground some better understanding of what's going on. But I'll leave it.
So real quick, because I want the other people on the panel to speak as well, Buana. You bring up coltan and how it can power the electronics like a tablet or a phone. Well, African Americans, they're like, well, sure, but also how does that flow into my neighborhood? And I give the example of Jewish shops and Korean shops and Arab shops and black neighborhoods. Those store owners, right, have a direct connection to Israel, whatever Arab country, whatever South Korea or Japan. And when I go to black cities, and I've been to many, right, it's far and few in between that we have African shops. And if we do, it's hardly ever when I go in there that I see other African Americans. And they might and I might see them and I might just think that they're Nigerian. But nonetheless is like they don't look at a phone and say, hey, the sale of this iPhone is empowering my neighborhood, right? It's like these dilapidated buildings that are in my neighborhood. The iPhone is probably the reason on why there's no money in my hood, or why like we don't have a garden. Like I might be reaching here, but I'm saying that they're not connecting the dots because again, it's not in front of their face. And back to the first, I think it was the first or second prompt that we had about the UNIA and its principles, and one of them was politics. And if we don't have politicians in the United States, especially from African American communities, campaigning for a free trade agreement with these African countries, again, I bring up Detroit, is like Detroit should be one of those cities that has a direct connection financially and politically, a free trade agreement with like a Senegal. They have a sizable Senegalese population in Detroit. They can get Senegalese goods transported directly to Canada and have that flow from the Detroit River into the city of Detroit. So that way people can actually see, like, okay, hey, you know what? The country of Senegal is empowering this neighborhood because the goods that are not necessarily grown here because of the weather most of the year, I can get that. I can get the avocados. I can get um, the teak wood. I can get the pineapples, et cetera, et cetera.
You are your generation, and I want to answer that, Jacado. Your generation is in the global economy. Where I say is it's become the economy has become very small now because you could touch the world. At the we talk about Detroit now. At the time of, let's say, Kwame Kilpatrick, the internet was just coming around. Okay, so our communication in terms of speaking wasn't because we didn't even have a YouTube yet. Yeah, we didn't have all these apps and things where we can communicate.
Good point. Good.
Now, yeah, now the time is much. I am speaking to you, and from Nebraska, and I am in the Bahamas. I think that you're probably even in a different time zone, but
Yeah.
we could connect via WhatsApp and make these kinds of strategic kinds of plans to have a better relationship with one another on the ground. You could ask me, what could I could produce here that will sell on the streets of Nebraska in your community? And the same thing, you could do the same thing to me. At the time, our elders, they didn't have this kind of technology that was useful. So now that we have that technology is useful, I think that we could be able, like people like yourself, to use it to your advantage and be forward looking. How could we use the technology on the ground in Nebraska to be able to create a better relationship across seas, oceans, continents? So I think that is the job of the younger person. Well, not all of us, really, all of us, because I'm not going to remove that responsibility from me. But in particular, the younger people, because they are more apt and skilled with the technology and what it could possibly do.
That's awesome. And earlier you talked about hospitality, and coming to Omaha. I also ask you the same question. If I come to the Bahamas, would I also be reciprocated with the same hospitality?
Oh, definitely. For me personally, I look at it like that with Brother Bakari and people like my thing would have been is their money is no good here.
Mm.
Their money is no good here. So, well, if you bring your family within reason, because I pay for hundreds of people, but within reason, your money should be no good here. And in the same respects, if I was to touch down in Omaha, Nebraska, my money should be no good there either. That is
Absolutely.
your responsibility. You understand? So this is
Absolutely.
the kind of relationship that we should be trying to foster with one another. That's where I am with it. But I'll leave it, Koku. I don't want to interrupt the show. Bro.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I like the
I mean,
conversation.
you might as well. Hell,
You already come here on CP time. You come here on CP time. Now you're talking.
Let me hear from Cheryl next. Cheryl, you've been waiting patiently. What say you to could it be said any better in reference to 19 Keys in Africa? What say you?
Okay, I have no idea who this guy is, but it sounds, I can see his confusion. I'm not sure of his political angle or anything, and I'm not sure of any of the things that he said on any social media platforms. But he sounds like he's frustrated that more Black people are not giving back to Africa, and um, I know personally when you ask most Black people about Africa and hey, let's do this in Africa, let's do this, they get to talking like white people. And that's not just African Americans, that's Caribbeans, that's if you live in the UK, even on the continent, they sound like that. And anytime you ask a Black person about um, like any African spiritual systems, especially like voodoo, what's the first thing that they say?
That's
It's a
that
devil. It's a
black
devil's
magic
religion.
bullshit.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
evil.
Yeah.
Witness, yeah.
Like, what's the first thing that they say? The first thing that come to your mind? What's the first thing that they say?
Yeah, it's that black magic bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, or it's that witchcraft. Oh, you're going to do that spooky, spooky stuff. And my question to everybody on the panel is where does that come from? And how does that affect our relationships with people on the continent? So, and that's just something to think about. So, also in tandem with that, how Black people are more invested in humanism than than their own African selves. And even on the continent, you ask them about their own spiritual systems. Some of them may have, if you go like deep in some of the villages, they'll have knowledge of their ancestral systems. But if you go to the main cities, they are talking crazy. Like they act like it's witchcraft too, right on the continent. So it's this idea, and what I'm trying to get at is Christianity essentially, and not just Christianity, but the trifecta. You know, Christianity, Islam, the Abrahamic religions. This idea of humanism and how it's like destroying who we are as a people, and it's stopping us. It's like cutting off our connections. And so not just what it's definitely in America, because my family members, I have some family members that as soon as you say Africa, they think, oh, the mud huts and oh da 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 da. I got some family members like that. And they sound just like white people. But why do they sound like white people? Because that's white people's frame of thinking. And their frame of thinking is you can see it through their religions. So we are in their religions deep, and that's why we think like that. So it's more than just like self hate. It's psychological, and I'll end it there.
Appreciate that, Cheryl. Let me unmute Anthony and get his thoughts on should be sub number 5. Could it have been said any better in reference to 19 keys and Africa being the future? Anthony would say.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. On the brother 19 Keys, I check him out sometime on IG. He go live. He do a lot of live shows on IG. Now, this is the red flag that comes to me when I hear you talk about gods and earths, the 5%ers, the Nation of Islam, the Moors and all that. Right then, already kind of like, okay, yeah, I kind of know where you coming from. Now, what he said was good. What he was talking about, Africa being the future. What he said was good. And sometimes we have to say we have to look at it like this, in my opinion. Okay, let's listen at the message. Let's don't look at who gave us the message necessarily. Okay. The message that he gave was good. Okay, now outside of that, we don't need to we ain't gonna put him up here and say well, this is a guy that we need to look to, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't really fool with him. I don't really fool with him. I listen at him. I listen to some of the things he say. You know, to me, he say a lot of problematic things. So he talk out of both sides of his mouth. Is what I'm saying. Okay, so getting him out the way. All right, this whole thing. This is what I look at. You got Fiddler. You got it. Okay, we're gonna talk about African people. Now let's talk about African people right here in America, and this problem of this hating Africa and hating anything African, hating our traditional belief systems and all this here. Okay, you got Fiddler, you got Kunta Kinte fresh off the boat. You know what I'm saying? Fiddler said, Kunta, your name ain't Kunta no more. Your name Toby. Don't come here with that African stuff. Talking all this, speaking in that African language. Don't come here with that African religion, with all this stuff. You in America now. That was his famous word. You in America now. You America. That whole mindset is what African people in America think of for the most part. Think like in the most part. I mean, we're not talking about us who come into consciousness. We talk about the African man and woman being bought here, being stripped of their language, stripped of their culture, stripped of their names, stripped of their tradition, their belief systems, and saying, okay, you ain't no African no more, you a Negro. You know what I'm saying? And you here now. Okay. And this is where you live at. You're on this plantation. And we can't see past the plantation. Even on the plantation today, we still can't see past the plantation. So we see a brother like DC Young Fly going over there, or any brothers and sisters going over to Africa and having a good time, man, and seeing how it's changing it changed their life, it changed the way they see things, their whole perspective. Remember Malcolm said back in the 60s, he said we need to go back to Africa. Now Malcolm wouldn't talk about going back to Africa physically necessarily. He was talking about us going back spiritually. You know what I'm saying? He was talking about us going back spiritually to Africa, culturally, and re-embracing what we lost. You know what I'm saying? That's what Malcolm was talking about. We need to restore our African mind, man. He said, you out your African mind. He said about I ain't left nothing, about the Negro saying I ain't left nothing in Africa. He said, yeah, because you left your mind in Africa. So he was talking about us restoring our African mind. So one of the main things is it's the consciousness. We got to rebuild the consciousness in our people. That we lost, and that's why right now you can hear him saying stuff like this here, and You know, all of those old rubbish and all this old stuff that you hear Negroes saying now. Another thing I want to say, one way for us to start is right here. Okay, Bwana was saying something about, okay, I'll leave that to you, brothers, you Black American. Okay, Bwana, and this ain't no jab at you, and no jab at nobody. I'm not a Black American, man. I'm an African. I'm an African in America. You're not a Bahamian. You're an African in the Bahamas. Brothers in from wherever you from in the diaspora, man. We gotta look. I mean, we gotta put this in our mentality, man. Cause we still call even on this panel. And this ain't jabbing at nobody, but we still call each other by the same name that the slave master gave us. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying we ain't looking at ourselves as being African. No, I'm an African. When you call me a Black American, and I'm not mad at you or nothing, but when you call me that, it's an insult to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm an African in America. Okay, you're not a Bahamian to me. You're an African in the Bahamas. So I'm saying, even at this level, even with us who has a conscience, we gotta go a little bit deeper and realize some of the stuff that we said with our mouths. Now, how we gonna teach somebody when we doing the same shit? You know what I'm saying? So we got to build that consciousness in us, man. We got to build that consciousness within us, and we gotta get back to our Africanity. We ain't no Bahamians. We ain't no Black Americans. We ain't no Jamaicans. We ain't no Haitians. You know what I'm saying? Hell, you could take it to the continent. Now let's take it to the continent. In South Africa, how in the hell can white folks come over there, East Indians and all kind of other people come over there and live in South Africa and do what they do, exploit and do whatever they do. But when a Zimbabwean come there or a Zambian come there, they call them a foreigner. How can a Zambian be a foreigner in Africa? You know what I'm saying? I mean, hell, y'all seen the video, they basically lynched this Zimbabwean brother. But the white man can walk all around there owning 75% of your land, owning all of the mineral wealth, all of the diamonds, all of your everything, whatever you got up under the soil, he owned. You know what I'm saying? Whatever firm you work for, it's probably his. You don't own shit. You got a couple of Negroes sitting up in the government. They're saying we the government. You know what I'm saying? But they get paid by the white man. But the only thing you could do is take that out on who? On your Zimbabwean brother, on your Mozambican brother, on your Nigerian brother. Man, they got the way they characterize Nigerians, the xenophobic people, not all South Africa. But way the South African characterize Nigerians, man, it's like how white folks characterize in America. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even on the continent, all over the world, we get back to loving each other, man, respect each other, and see each other as African people. You know what I'm saying?
I think Anthony was kicked. I don't know what's going on with his. Okay, here he is again. Let's see. Anthony, finish your thought. Oh wait, Anthony needs me to unmute his mic, right? Anthony, finish your thought if you can. If not, I'll go to someone else. In the meantime, seems like Anthony can't hear me. But in the meantime, let me go to let me introduce Brother Bakari this week. Brother Bakari, how are you this week?
I'm great, my man. How about you?
Good, I'm good. I'm good. Bakari, what are your thoughts here?
I came up to tell you because not to crap on what 19 Keys said. What he was saying made sense, right? What he was saying made sense, and even what Anthony said made sense about take the message, but not the messenger. But the reason I put in the chat 19 Keys, the scammer, it was him, Ben X, and some other Nation of Islam 5%er, whatever. And they had started some black business school. I forget exactly, black business something. It was BBB. I forget exactly, but anyway, they took up a lot of money for that school. Time was supposed to be teaching classes, and man, they took up that money. Man, they ain't never teach no class though. The school they supposed to have. So that's why I called them. That's why I said 19 Keys the scammer. But what he said made sense. And like I said, I understand what Anthony's saying, but since I've heard this messenger a few times and he flip-flop and he'll flip-flop sometimes, but I agree with what I do agree with what Anthony said about take the message. Don't worry about the messenger at this point, because I agree with some of the things that he said. Because like I said, what he was saying, some of the things that he was saying was making sense. So that's all I have to say on it.
Thank you for that, Brother Bakari. I hope you and Sister Raw squash whatever's going on out there.
Oh, let me say, since you said I have no beef. People have beef with me because I am who I am, and I ain't gonna switch up who I am. No, she can say what she want to say. You don't have to. Thank you though, but maybe they can be upset with me. I'm okay. People been upset with me a whole lot. This ain't the first time people been upset. Won't be the last time people upset. So it is. Look at it. She said I would send her some money. Raw wants some money. So now she trying to say I asked her for some money. Raw wants some money back that she sent to help to purchase a couple of books. That's the money she's asking for. She's asking me to give money back that was given for books. Because you know I have my book drive, right? And on my book drive. So when she says something about money with me, I'm telling you what she said, the books that I buy. She want money back for books.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it's about, but I'm just saying I hope you all
Well, I'm saying I'm telling what it's about, because when she put in there talking about I'm a scammer, trying to act like I stole something from her, she's a damn lie. She donated money for books.
all right. Well, I appreciate the clarification there. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One brief thing, because Anthony say something that resonated with me. They'll work that out. Bakari had worked that out. But yeah, the brother say that he don't see himself as African American. Now, th- Anthony, I would say this when I'm speaking to people like yourself or Brother Bakari, your brothers and are ahead of the curve. Okay, so I don't want to offend y'all, and when I speak and say certain things, y'all are way ahead of the curve. Y'all ahead of the class, and I'm not speaking really specifically for y'all. When I speak to y'all, it's a greater kind of conversation because y'all on that divine level and conversation where y'all understand things. For me, at a level to where I have to speak differently when I speak into y'all. But bro, just the reason why I say what I say in separation is, bro. Sometimes I'm on this internet, you know, much times I've been called Tesla and shut your mouth up, and you can't talk about our business and our business. I've been talked to crazy on this internet simply because I have an accent. So many people may not see me as, oh, we are one and the same. So sometimes this is the reason why I do that. But I understand to your ears that sound like poison because you're not even on that level. So I don't want to insult you in any way, and I don't want you to take it as an insult, bro. I just reacting to what I've been specifically told not to talk about by African American people, but I understand your perspective, and I say you are absolutely right in what you say, and I don't want to offend you at all, bro. That's not my intention, but I understand where you're coming from, but like I said, man, I've been talked to crazy to say, shut your mother, you old island, whatever. So sometimes this is the reason why I say I will let the brothers from America speak on certain topics and certain issues. But you are absolutely right in what you are saying. Absolutely. You are absolutely right. Make no mistake about it.
Yeah, Brother Anthony fell off the panel and soon he can't get back in with sound. I know I didn't change anything since the show's been going, so I'm not sure why that is, Anthony. But in the meantime, I can find a chat says, how can gold, diamonds, cobalt not be sound financially? Um, Provide Trigger says, I think that 19 Keys knows the power of psychology. I have seen on his YouTube channel his self presentations with the optics of a Huey P. Newton. That's a very interesting thing he did there. With black, she goes on to say, with black jackets and sitting in a wicker chair with the round back and all as if he's a Black Panther Party member. Um, KW Dawn 7 says, Africa could be the future, but for who? Uh, Let me see if there's anything else. So yeah, so that those are the comments from the chat. With that said, Black Steel, you've seen and heard everything everyone else had to say. What say you?
Well, couple of things. First of all, Buana, I got stuck in traffic coming out of Disney. Okay, if you've never been to Disney World, that traffic is insane coming out. So that's
Orlando,
why,
right? This is Orlando.
yes, that's why
Oh
I'm
yeah,
on
I was
CP
kind of,
time, because
I
this,
saw that traffic before. Yeah.
yeah, that traffic coming out of Disney is awful, terrible. It's going 3 miles an hour. Anyways, so couple things I agree with. Some things I didn't agree with. Number one, I do agree he's a scammer. My knowledge of 13 key of whatever the fuck, 19 keys comes from what I've heard about him, similar to like Bakari mentioned his black business school and some of the things Dr. Jared Ball talked about him on uh, Black Liberation Media. Um, Talked about his earn your leisure and his black business fest and whatnot. He's really big on black capitalism and investing and all that other stuff. And that in and of itself, it makes my spider sense tingle a little bit. I would really ask him when he says Black Americans have a problem when he's talking about going to Africa, right? I gotta ask him which Black Americans, because we have to realize that much of our online discourse has been infiltrated, right? And I really doubt. I'm not saying there aren't some self-hating Black people, but most Black people that I know personally aren't really that bothered. Not really. But a lot of times, these ADOS and these FBA accounts, there's something about them that's so agenty, right? Right. The energy they give off, it's just so hostile. There's no talking, there's no communication. You coward bitch, you fucking tether off, whatever. And I'm just like, I had an interaction with one on X, Twitter, and I literally asked him, "You talking about Pan Africanists? I living in Africa," and I said, "What is the word? What does the prefix of Pan mean?" Oh, you would have thought I was talking about his mother. Oh, I mean, he just went off on me, and I'm like, this energy. It doesn't seem like it's coming from actual people. It feels like these are bots. It feels like these are people who are meant to create confusion and discord among African people. Africa is the future, and one big reason is because Africa has the youngest population in the world. Many countries and continents are actually below replacement level when it comes to births. Europe, for example, Japan, United States, for example, they're below replacement level. Africa is not. Latin America is not. The Middle East is not. So when we say Africa is the future, because most of the young people coming up in the future are going to be African. And this is a demographic crisis for these racists and these white supremacists. Um, Black people in America, I would say, general Black people, Africans throughout diaspora, we have low racial esteem, and all the negativity that you hear about Africa and Black people on that white people consume, Black people consume it too, and it makes it very difficult for them to move past that programming. I think it's a really strong ingest that type of information and not hate themselves. And that is exactly what it's designed for. Pan-Africanism, even economic, cultural ties with Africans, the diaspora to the continent, is something that white people fear above all else. And they will go to any lengths to prevent it. They'll tell us to our face, oh, it doesn't work, it's a scam. Meanwhile, you have pan-Europeanism. Every European settler colony supports the other one, no matter where in the world they happen to be. You got Donald Trump literally talking about letting white South Africans come to the United States as refugees. Okay? You had one settler colony, the United States, shipping another settler colony weapons to help exterminate an entire group of people. So they'll say Pan Africanism doesn't work when we live under Pan Europeanism and don't acknowledge it. The hatred and the violence that Europeans have had within themselves, there's no equivalent to that in Africa. There's no African equivalent of World War One, World War Two, the 7 Years War, 30 Years War, 100 Years War. You can't look at Africa and see African people at conflict with each other like that. But yet white people can do that, and yet they're able to work together for a common interest. But black people can't. So, that's one thing. Two, another thing I would say as far as black people not connecting, not going over, not traveling, black people don't have no money. And I really can't state that enough, right? Median income for black people in the United States is like 42,000. You got a few outliers that's doing really well. But the average person, black person, is really struggling to make ends meet in this country. Not hell, the average white person is struggling to make ends meet in this country. Um, so a lot of times they don't have a lot of residual money to travel. If they do any luxuries, they'll probably put on credit or something they have to save up for. So then their mind, they're not connecting with thinking about trying to build connections to that. So I would say when he says people are upset, which people are upset by it? Is it these clowns, the Tariqites and those who follow Yvette, whatever? They might be upset. I gotta say, most of my interactions with people in the diaspora has been very positive. I went to a last week. I went to a African Arts Festival for Zora Neale Hurston. So I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Zora Neale Hurston is. But when I went there, everybody was wearing dashikis. Everybody had African art with mask and garb. There was African man out there selling soap and shea butter and beads and things like that. There was no, oh, you a tether. We're not gonna buy your stuff for you. I didn't see that. That didn't happen because he saw me. Are you ready for me, my brother? You want to purchase something for me? I give you this. It was a smooth business transaction, but not just that. It was the interaction, just even outside of just buying stuff, the communication. There was no hostility. I'm really questioning when these people talk about all these issues between our people, right? Because in real life, I don't see it. And I'm on the ground. I don't experience that. So, one more thing. Something about black people not building anything. I think that what he mentioned about why we. First of all, that's a goddamn lie. And I hate when people make that statement because you're really going to ignore how the United States government and private citizens have done everything possible to destroy, undermine, and attack black people when we do stuff. I mean, the list goes on and on. They're still doing it now. So don't say that because that means you just don't know history. I'll leave it there.
Good stuff, Black Steel. We have a moment here. Let's have a free fall conversation. So, any
Okay.
last? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a request. Please, indulge me. I want to play a clip for the African, well, for the American brothers. I know Anthony don't get mad at me. Could you play that Trudeau clip that I put on the bitter medicine promptly for tonight? Play that for me,
Yeah,
please. 'Cause I want them to see that.
Well, do you want to do it as a prompt or just play the video?
Play the video. We could talk about it. I mean, if the brothers could spend a couple, like maybe 10 minutes talking about it if they want to. But I wanted them to see that because I really wanted their thoughts on it.
All right. So what I'll do, I'll play it as a prompt so that we don't burn it. But before that, is there any last thoughts on this prompt here? All right. So what I'll do, let me queue up what Juana's asking me to queue up. I had this as Shooter Breeze topic number 6 if we finished 5 earlier because it was kind of a slow night. But let's do it. Shoot the Breeze topic number 6 says, so one president chooses to ignore Black History Month while another chooses to acknowledge it. Thoughts? This came with a link that's going to take us, I believe, to YouTube. Let's just do it.
Bonjour à tous. It's Black History Month, a time to celebrate the achievements, the contributions, and the history of Black Canadians. A time to focus on investing in and uplifting future generations. When we first endorsed the UN International Decade for People of African Descent back in 2018, we made a commitment to empower Black communities, not just with words, but with actions. Whether that be in business, in innovation, in arts and culture, in social justice, or in community building. And we knew that we had to listen to Black voices to make that happen. Thanks to the leadership of countless Black-led organizations, leaders, and advocates, we've come a long way. Together, we launched Canada's first ever Black Entrepreneurship Program, the Supporting Black Canadians Communities Initiative, and just recently developed the Black Justice Strategy. The impact of these initiatives has been felt deeply in communities across the country, and that impact is only going to get bigger. But there's always more work to do. This is a country that believes at its core that we are stronger for our diversity, not in spite of it. So we'll keep listening to Black leaders, amplifying Black voices, and building a better Canada, one where everyone has a fair shot. Happy Black History Month. Thank you all. Merci, mes chers amis.
There you have it. So I'm not going to call on people like I usually do. We'll make this a kind of a segment, a free fall, if you will. I'll start with Buana because he wanted to tee it up now. And then after that, anyone could jump in.
Yes. So I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about leverage, and I want to talk about influence. Influence. And I was telling Brother Bakari earlier, there was the Black. I think there was the Black Americans actually started Black History Month. The Black Americans actually started Black History Month. I can't remember the name of the scholar, and I know Anthony doesn't like me to talk in these kinds of terms, but just indulge me if you will. Indulge me if you will, Anthony, for the time being, because I know all of us are Africans, absolutely. But indulge me for a second, okay? Now, I want to talk about the fact that this person, Justin Trudeau, who is the Prime Minister of Canada, right, is being impacted by the taxes, the levies that Donald Trump was trying to push against the country. Now he say, well, we're gonna hold off on that. We're gonna hold off on that, okay? Because he understood America will be affected by it. So regardless of the fact that Canada is still a racist country, I live in Canada. I live off of Scarborough. I live in Canada for a time. So I know that Justin Trudeau doesn't mean this. But he uses that the issue of Black History Month as leverage to show to the world, okay, the people at the south of us are playing race politics. Well, we're gonna pretend to be diverse and we gotta acknowledge Black history. And we can use something that African Americans created to push this out there in the world. This is a serious kind of impact that's being done. Because they're using this political football. And I say that if if the African American community could leverage this, imagine what else they could leverage. Imagine what else they could leverage. Because this is a leader of the country to the north, a very big country, by the way. You know what I mean? And I'm just, right. Matron just correct. She let us know Carter G. Woodson started Black History Month or helped started Black History Month. Now this is being acknowledged by world leaders. So if you could leverage this, imagine other things that you have the ability to leverage as well. So I say happy Black History Month to African Americans. The brothers and sisters to the north of me should take the lead in this, irrespective of the fact that Donald Trump decides to ignore Black History Month and pretend that it doesn't exist. My American brothers to the north should take the lead in showing the world, yes, this guy thinks this way, but here's what our community is going to do about it. Because if this particular leader of a country could acknowledge it, imagine who else could acknowledge it as well. So use it as leverage. That's what I see. I'll wait to hear what the brothers have to say about it.
Let me ask you a question. Leverage that in what way and with who?
Leverage it is in a way that what I hear all the time that the FBAs or people like that say hip hop is the most influential music around the world. Okay, so when I hear them say that, what I'm hearing them say is this music has basically taught a culture and sent it out to the world in how to behave in manner, style, fashion, or whatever. Now, Carter G. Woodson was one of the great thinkers in African American society. Not only him, Martin Luther King as well. Martin Luther King as well. I'm saying that if your community, African American community, or not African, if the leaders in at the top of the American community doesn't want to pay attention to what the African Americans doing or thinking about, I'm saying that their views and opinions and ideas are still impactful and pervasive throughout the world as well. So much to a point to where it's getting this man even to address it.
But
So
who
it's
leverage it against though, Bawana? Like you talking about leverage it against the
no,
regime that's in
no,
office?
no, no, no. Oh, let me say leverage is not a good word. I'm saying use it as political capital. Use it as political capital in the world. Since this government say they don't respect you and they love you, well, other communities do, other countries do, other continents do, other continents do.
Buana, I mean, one thing about this situation, man, is that this is just symbolic. I mean, this is the same dude who was running around dressed in blackface not too long ago. So I'm a little skeptical. It sounds really good, but you got to understand this is just lip service, right? There's no real substance to what he's talking about. You can't leverage a sim. Okay, so first of all, Black History Month, which growing up, I've always liked Black History Month. I enjoy talking about it, enjoy the interaction and the knowledge being spread. That's great, right? But this is just a symbolic thing. That would be like saying, "Oh, this country celebrated Dr. King Day and this country don't." How could we leverage that? You can't because it's just talk, right? He's not really, and he could say this because the black population in Canada is relatively small. There's not a lot of black people in Canada, so they can put on a nice front as though they're some sort of racially accepted nation. But the truth is, Canada is a white settler colony, just like the United States is. You can certainly see how Canada treats it's they don't call them Native Americans, they call them First Nations. How they treat their First Nations people, how they brutalize them. People don't really know that about Canada because Canada is always seen as the polite, friendly neighbor to the north. But a cracker is a cracker is a cracker, right? They just happen to be nicer about it than the Americans happen to be. But believe Canada is no better when it comes to their racial history than the United States is. They just happen to be because their population is less. They don't have as many minorities or many non-white people living there. They're able to put on a facade of them being um, progressive, right? And now they're on the end of Trump's trade war. Now they're getting a ally of theirs is now turning against them. they want to, put forth a good front. Look at what he's doing, and can we celebrate Black history, whereas they're getting rid of things like having to do with diversity. We celebrate our Black citizens, knowing there's like not that many Black Canadians. Not to say there aren't any, because there are, but the number of Black Canadians compared to Black Americans is relatively minuscule. Okay, 1,300,000. There's more than there's more Black people in the entire state of Florida. There's more Black people in New York City than in the entire state of Canada, entire country of Canada, right? So I'm just not really feeling that whole leverage. What?
That's the same thing. I was wondering, what are we going to leverage? Who are we? Who is African American going to talk to? Because we ain't in. I'm gonna be honest. We ain't in a position to leverage nothing, man. They got damn apartheid is Nazis over here in damn Chad. We ain't in a position to. Maybe the Black people in Canada can leverage that. Yeah, let's show them we better than them, and they might be able to get something from it. But African Americans, nah, I don't. That's me. I'm just saying that's me. I'm not. I don't think it can be leveraged. I don't think it can be leveraged into nothing. And I think we need to understand the type of people that we're up against. When they say, like, they say the guy dressed in blackface, they'll let you know what type of person. Well, I would say they let you know what the type of person he is, but shit, black folks are okay with a lot of black folks over here was okay with Donald Trump, so that don't show them shit. So I'm gonna be honest. It might be some black people think they can leverage that. They thought Donald Trump was good for them. So I really have no idea, but I don't see nowhere where you can leverage them. You can say they paid respects to Carter G. Woodson, who created Negro History Week in February, and Negro History Week turned into Black History Month. And since this is Black History, that's good. I'm glad you said that. Let's read. That's a good thing to give a shout out to Carter G. Woodson. I can't even think of the name of my book now, but one of his shit, I'm gonna look at it right now. What I really love, and I read it about 3 times. And
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
no, I'm just saying Carter G. Woodson. I like Carter G. Woodson. Ain't one of his most popular. And I got it over there somewhere. I don't feel like going through it. I done read it about 3-4 times, and now I'm just having a brain for. But I don't see no leveraging in
The
that.
Miseducation of Negro. That's the one.
That's the one right there. That's a great book. One of my favorite books, The Miseducation of the Negro. Thank you, Black Steel. Go ahead, Cheryl. I think that was Cheryl or whoever that was.
Yeah, yeah, that was me. So yeah, I just because I don't know too much about Canada. I do. My in-laws are from there. I've been there a couple times. I just see this guy, and I'm just like, okay. The only thing he could possibly be doing is trying to save face, and try to keep the image of Canada, this great image that, we're friendly guys. Hey, come over here. I just think he's just trying to save face on the world stage. That's really all it is. And especially in the face that Trump is in office, he's trying to look like the good guy and Trump's the bad guy. And, it's just a little game they're playing, whatever. But just on that, I've been to Toronto. I've been to Brampton. I don't want to go back necessarily, but it's like the Twilight Zone, honestly. It is like the black people there are, I don't even know, man. It's a different type of confusion up there. They, man, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just know I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. But anyway, yeah, this guy, he can't even give the land. He won't even give the land back to the indigenous people. So he's just saving face. He's a faker. So yeah.
So Canada was a stop on the Underground Railroad. So in the United States, slaves would escape to northern states to get free. In 1850, Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Act when they made California a state. So they made making a slave escape would be a federal crime. So basically, any black person could be returned to slavery no matter what state they were in, whether they lived in a free state or not. So what they did is that it made basically United States was no longer safe for runaway slaves. So what they started doing was going to Canada because the British had abolished slavery in their territory in like 1838. So Great Britain, so any type of British territory was considered to be safe. So some African Americans escaped to Canada on the Underground Railroad. So it kind of flies in the face of all those FBA people who say we don't flee. you know, Canada was considered to be safe ground. Bahamas was considered to be safe. It was British territory. Mexico was also considered to be safe as well. So and then another thing is that a lot of during the American Revolution, some of those black loyalists who fought for the British were removed to Nova Scotia. So there were some black Americans who were formerly enslaved here in the United States. After the American Revolution, they went to Nova Scotia and Canada. They were evacuated after the British left at the end of the war. So there is somewhat of a small black presence. I don't know how that would affect their mentality. That's kind of weird.
I
Interesting.
would. I do. Yeah, I think I heard some about the Nova Scotia and black slaves escaping to there. They must be an even smaller population because I know the majority of black people that are up there are Jamaican, and they just got to the country during the '60s. And the only reason I know that is because my husband lived there. He's from there, and so yeah.
So, how many black people on the French side of Canada?
You mean like Quebec?
That's
I
a good
have no
question.
idea. That's a good
Because I
question.
know Haitians go over there, but I'm like, how many was there before? I bet you it can't be many there. And
I
you know
mean, they
something?
do have some. Most of them are on the Toronto side, from my understanding. They're from Jamaica or some part of the Caribbean. There might be a few from the continent there, but they're majority Jamaican.
Yep, and if I might have to look that up, the Haitian because it's not that you're right. It won't be that many, but that I just know they go to that side because I have friends that Haitians actually. Like I said, my grandson is Haitian mama. He's Haitian, and she
You're
got
gonna find black people everywhere, man. I got a neighbor. He's Jamaican, right? And his son lives in Saskatchewan. I said, what? Saskatchewan?
Oh, way
What in
up
the
north.
world?
Oh,
we
oh,
gonna. So what you saying is you gonna find at least one. Don't care
You're
where you.
gonna find at least one up there.
that's scary.
We
and
are.
and, and, and I'm glad that I glad that I got an African American perspective. That's interesting. This perspective y'all get. Like I said, I used to live in Toronto. The French, the Haitians live in Montreal. A lot of them live in Montreal. A lot of the English speaking Caribbean, Trinidadians, Jamaicans, all through the Caribbean, a lot of them live in Toronto. So Cheryl is right. A lot of them live in Toronto. So that is. But the reality is, the truth is, the so-called indigenous black population did the Americans, the black Americans, who because of the underground railroad to the north, because there's two underground railroads, one going to the north and one going to the south. So the ones that went to the south, they are actually the original black population in Canada. That's the actual truth. That's a fact. They Americans. They're Americans. That's a fact.
Well,
Um,
ask no question. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Whoever that was, go ahead.
just all right. So, so two things. I'll touch on the leverage part. People were asking what Buana means by people can seek leverage with Justin Trudeau's endorsement of Black History Month in Canada. But first, there's a tie of Black history in Canada and Black history in the United States. One of them being in the state that I represent, Nebraska. Uh,
somebody had brought up that there was a stop, if not one of the last stops of the Underground Railroad was Canada. One of them was Nova Scotia. Um, Before Nebraska became a U.S. state, it was Nebraska Territory. After some time, they opened up Nebraska Territory to be bought for land purchasers. And the former enslaved Africans of Nova Scotia had purchased land in Nebraska Territory and called it Dewitty. Uh, I'm pronouncing this maybe incorrectly, but Dewitty or Dewitty. I'm trying to post the video, but there was a news uh, special on the Dewitty community that was the first and largest and most successful first black settlement in the Nebraska Territory. They had a grocery store, 3 school districts, a post office, and a baseball team. And then they also had a church, an African Methodist Episcopal Church. If anybody remembers Richard Allen from AME Church during the time of the slave revolts, but I digress. Nonetheless, there is a tie between Canada and the United States as far as Black history because the former enslaved Africans of Nova Scotia they bought land and settled in Nebraska Territory, now Nebraska State. The other thing about leverage, I know that from research and also being there, Toronto has a sizable Somali community, and Winnipeg, I think it's Edmonton province, has a sizable South Sudanese community. Justin Trudeau is on his way out. It was announced earlier this year that he would be resigning, if not September, October of this year. When Biden was on his way out, one of the last things that he did that we all applauded for, at least most of us, was he pardoned from the grave Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Well, when people are on their way out, especially politicians, is usually the time that they want to be remembered for a good legacy rather than a negative one. I would impose that those Somali and South Sudanese in those cities of Toronto and Winnipeg campaign hard for a free trade agreement of their respective countries of South Sudan and Somalia. This is how you can use leverage, maybe uh, to add to what Buana was talking about.
Okay, does anyone else want to add? Someone has to mute their mic. I can hear your TV in the background.
Oh, that's my. I'm sorry about.
It's all good. Does anyone else want to add any last thoughts that maybe someone who didn't speak during this topic? If not, it seems like no one else wants to add anything. Let's do our shout outs for the week before we leave here tonight. I'd like to get everyone's shout outs, or if someone wants to mention something that was discussed earlier in the show, want to shout that out, you can do that as well. So let me go down the line here. Let me start with Bakari. Bakari, what would you like to shout out this week?
I'd like to shout out the Bitter Medicine Podcast, the people on the panel, and the chat, and Sister Raw. I'm shouting Raw out too because she mad with me. I'm not mad with her, but anyway. Look, man, this was a good. I didn't catch the whole thing. If I told you I did, I would be lying. But what I called it was a good. It was a good live. It was a good live, and y'all make sure y'all share his live and share it on your other social media. Share it on your other social media sites. And I want to give a shout out. Let me ask. I want to ask who on here from down south? It's Black Steel. Black Steel. Let me. Can I ask Black Steel one question right quick?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, Black Steel. Have you noticed in Florida when you see people on the farm, right? You notice that it's a lot of white people working on the farm.
I'm noticing an increase in those numbers. Yes.
Want me to tell you why? I'm giving a shout out to the black farmers in Mississippi who pulled a code on this. They sued and got their money and they back. Do you know, starting in 2017, with the lunatic in office now, was in office then, they started importing white South African farmers to come, starting in Mississippi, to come down south and farm, to teach them how to farm and grow certain things, to go back to South African farm. And now they're asking to bring them over here and give them refuge. So shout out to the black farmers for putting that code, having that come up in the administration that just left. Those black farmers and tried to they were stopping it, but now according to the black farmers, the white South Africans are coming back down south farming. So we need to stay on top of that, because it's just more and more and more of them that don't like us that will be here while we are on social media arguing and fighting one another. And on that note, peace and one love.
Well done, Bakari. Make sure you guys are tuned in, subscribed to Brother Bakari's show, BBN Network, if I'm not mistaken. Black Steel, what would you like to shout out this week?
Couple things. First of all, my son's birthday. He turned 21 on Monday, so shout out to him. That's another thing. Something that happened today. Shout out to those brothers in Cincinnati who beat the brakes off those neo-Nazis who was marching in Cincinnati. So, there was a couple. These white dudes had their Nazi flags and swastikas and wearing masks, and they ran up on some black folks who beat the brakes off them, stole their flags, set them on fire. I always like to see black resistance is always a good thing. Another thing is that rest in peace, Neely Fuller. He passed away this week. I know some people didn't always agree with his analysis, but he was a scholar, and I do believe that his heart was in the right place, even if we may have disagreed with his analysis. He is an ancestor now, so may he rest in peace, rest in power to him.
Yeah, appreciate that, Black Steel. We did discuss Neely Fuller earlier before you arrived, so yeah, thanks for that. And shout out to your son, man. Happy birthday to him. I really do hope that he sees many more, I hope he sees many more in the future with black folks in power, man. So shout out to you. Shout out to your son. Cheryl, what would you like to shout out this week?
Yeah, I just like to shout out bb2me.com. So I just finished an intermediate class on there. That was through Obadele Kamban. I did an intermediate class for Tree. Tree is a language in Ghana. So yeah, just shout out to that platform for allowing, just myself and other people to learn more about Africa and some of the languages there. Yeah, that's it.
I always call it twee when it's tree.
Chi, chi.
Chi, sorry, chi. Cheryl, give me a sound bite in chi. Give me something Pan African in chi if you can.
Okay. Um, Mechawo Majo Wohotesain, Koku Wohotesain.
And what did that mean?
That is, how are you? And so you would respond, Mehoye.
I'm not even going to try to respond, but thank you. Trigger Happy, let us know how she did, how Cheryl did with that. But thank you very much, Cheryl, for sharing that with us. By the way, can you give us a little bit more, just a little bit more on the intermediate class? Like, how much did it cost? Did it cost? How often did it meet, etc.?
I have to ask my husband how much it cost. But they Obadale Kamban, he does classes on there. Sometimes he does them himself. Sometimes he'll have his students do it. But they also have Yoruba, if you guys are interested. That is from Nigeria. They meet twice a week. That would be on the weekends, so Saturday, Sunday. If you go to bb2me.com, you are going to have to make an account to get into that. But if you link up with him, they'll walk you through the whole process with that. Mhm.
Nice. Trigger Happy 262 plus in the chat said no. He's from Ghana. He said not bad. So thumbs up to Cheryl. Jackadero, what would you like to shout out this week?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out, of course, the Dinwiddie first settlement for Black peoples in Nebraska territory, and then Empower Omaha, the empowerment network in Omaha, Nebraska, reaching and connecting with peoples all over Cincinnati, Ohio. That's funny that somebody mentioned that because we have developers, investors, real estate agents, electricians, plumbers from there, Memphis, Tennessee, Dallas and Houston, Texas, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then everything outside and in between. And then second shout out is to you, Koku. 185 episodes. So big shout out to Koku.
Yeah, I'm just playing around with the effects. But thank you for that, Jackadero. I appreciate it. And Jackadero, come through, man. You're always welcome to come through. Last but not least, Buana, what would you like to shout out this week?
I never knew the personality of people in the heartland. They used to call it the heartland, like people in Nebraska and places like that. It's good. It's refreshing to get the style and the rhythm of the brothers and sisters in that part of the world. You know, 'cause I usually deal with people from the East Coast, New Yorkers, and people from Florida. But to see the personality from people in that part of the world it's very interesting to see. Very interesting.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But let me say this. First of all, shout out to Black Steel's son, who's turning 21. Black Steel's mentioned that the average black person salary is like around 40,000, and he's late in coming in because he was just taking his family to Disney World. So obviously he's not average because he has to take your family to Disney World. Disney World is not cheap. Let me just put it like that. So obviously he's doing his thing in South Florida. But shout out to his son. Hopefully he lives a very long time in a healthy, wealthy, wise way, and hopefully he is able to make his dad proud. Let me put it like that. Also, shout out to Brother Bakari's son. Brother Bakari forgot to mention this because we talked about this earlier. I think it's Kibwe. Kibwe is hosting a food program where he is feeding a lot of people in where he is right now at his college or university. Brother Bakari can speak to that. But shout out to him for doing that. Hopefully, he carries the tradition of his grandfather and Brother Bakari as well, and being a community man in servicing the needs of the people. So shout out to him. Lastly, let me say this, and this is important. Shout out to the brothers and sisters in America. I know Anthony McFall he might knock me for this one, but I gotta do it, Anthony. Shout out to the African American community for Black History Month because, like I say, just because the president doesn't find it important or find it important to make a mental note of it or public note of it, you all should take up the task of acknowledging the fact that Black History Month was birthed by African Americans, so we should respect and represent that to the fullest for the whole month of February. So I'll just leave it there.
Good stuff, everyone. Trigger Happy wants to shout out Burkina for making electric cars. Anthony echoed the same sentiment. I appreciate it, Anthony. He said shout out to Koku. I appreciate it. Shout out to all of you. That's my shout out this week. Shout out to all of you. It was a slower show tonight. It was just a few of us here. But by the end, more of the regular suspects, so to speak, showed up. And we had a really good conversation at the end of the day. I'm going to try and...
Lastly, Bakari, you got to make it right with Sister Raw. I don't know what your other shoes is, bro, but you got to make it right with the sister. Make it right with her. Whatever it is. You got to make it right.
So, Bakari, you want to respond to that? Go ahead.
I just want to say I got you.
Much appreciated. Yeah, I'm going to try start implementing some of the suggestions that were made late last year about things to add to the show to make it a nicer experience. So look for that before the end of Black History Month. In the meantime, man, like I said, shout out to all of you. Thanks for making the time a good one. And shout out to Anthony McPhail who lost connection, etc. But we'll be back next week. Anthony, I'm going to contact you. If I don't contact you, contact me by the middle of the week. Let's see if we can figure this issue out. In the meantime, you guys check out all the other shows on KWAZ Radio. And until next time, peace.
Hello there, dear listener. We hope you're enjoying this lovely discussion. If you're not already aware, this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio, a Pan-African nationalist and Garveyite network committed to showcasing the rich and varied thoughts of African people. We have an exciting lineup of shows that we think you'll enjoy, including
the Bitter Medicine Podcast.
I think black people require too much buy-in. Like, we constantly have to sell black people on things that are beneficial to black people.
The Pro-Black Perspective Podcast.
I'm fearful that our people are not really studying how to get ahead, and we're kind of, continually staying behind.
The Harsh Reality Podcast.
To me, it don't matter. I think people are so dumbed down, it wouldn't matter what you reveal to them. They still are in the matrix. They're in the simulation. They're going to keep doing what they did. They lemmings. So to me, it don't matter, man.
The Learning Curve Podcast.
Sexual access has never given you economic empowerment. The only person who has ever been economically empowered by a sexual relationship is the wasp and his woman.
The Cathedra Cheek Show.
When we start rising up to fight for our own, I guarantee you they'll stop doing what they're doing. I guarantee you they would have let their brother go. They was waiting to see what black folks was going to do.
Brother Bakari Podcast.
Black people love to claim folks that hate them, right? They're a slave master, and they are ashamed of who they really are.
The Forecast Radio.
Like, if you pray to the same deity as, like, your enemy, and that God blesses your enemy more than you may want to reconsider who you praying to,
And Tanzan, African Mind.
Africans generally are welcoming of everyone. Sometimes, to my consternation, I think that they should be less, welcoming.
If you love our podcast network, we would be grateful if you could rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our website at www.kwazradio.com for more information. Thank you for